DC and the Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Welcome to Powerbombshells 165. I'm Mel. That's Sam. We're just two broads talking about the wrestling we watch. We are on Wizard Time, and Darius knows it, and the whole world knows it. But I love that promo so much because
I do too.
It's so beautifully, perfectly us.
Yes.
Man, how's it going, Sam? What's shaking?
It's going. I will go ahead. I already told Mel I apologize in advance if I sneeze a lot. I thought I ran out of allergy medicine yesterday, and I was like, oh, usually this time of year I can stop taking it. I'll see how I do. And while we were talking before I went on air, I sneezed, and my sister heard me, and she has her allergy medicine we take different ones because I have to take something a little bit stronger. And so she came in before the show starts. So shout out to Nikki. Hopefully her allergy medicine kicks in while we're on the show, but I apologize in advance if I sneeze a lot.
I'm very grateful to Nikki as the wife of someone who suffers allergies horribly, and as the co-host of Two People and the sister and aunt. I have my allergies, but I have much more severe allergy sufferers in my life, and I'm very empathetic to that. So
I appreciate
if
that.
anybody is wondering Sam about her allergies, I will come at you, bro.
Except
Listen, and huge shout out to Nikki. That was awesome. Thank you, because
Nikki,
that is
she had a very quick run in and got to say hello to Mel.
It was very nice. We got
before we went on air.
And I was saying to Sam, it's like, of course she could read my lips. She's been doing this since she was a wee one. She certainly been watching YouTube in the dark with the sound turned down, reading lips. That's something that someone Nikki's age is definitely, she's on top of this. She entered the chat young and has never looked back.
Yes. Daza says, I don't think there's a medication for that one. Daza said he's allergic to Brian Alvarez takes that they make his skin boil.
I've been seeing a lot of talk about Brian's takes lately, and because I had to kind of 86 sorry. I've been I worked in restaurants. My husband worked in restaurants. That means get rid of it. It means take it off the menu. All of us restaurant people went, guys, come on. But we had 86. We had to 86 the Observer subscription for a time because money and them increasing prices and so forth. So I haven't caught many of his takes, but I have seen in our Discord that they've been I guess interesting. So that's all the talk on the Observer threads and so forth.
I see some things here and there about it, and it's just
it all gets it all blends together when it comes to wrestling socials and each various like their networks and the ancillary things that go on in amongst them. It's like let's kick up the toxic behavior on wrestling Twitter because there's not enough of that.
Right.
I mean, if I said it early this morning, and I'll say it again, and I've always said it, is if you want to go looking for toxic and gross things on the internet, it has plenty of that for you, and go for it. But I choose to use it as a tool for making myself a little bit smarter and a way to engage people like the people in our chat. So
exactly.
Thank you guys. Thanks for checking this out.
Nikki said,
I was going to say,
she was going to guess the purple hat for you, and then she said, I almost guessed the blue hat, but the last few times I guessed blue, I was wrong, so I changed it. I knew I should have just said blue.
Honestly, I try not to check everybody's guesses just so I can cold, know if someone guessed. But I was not intentionally trying to swerve you, I promise. This was actually, and I totally forgot and then remembered because we were watching... Bob decided after we watched the Sheik episode that he was like, we need to watch WrestleMania 3. And I was like, okay, let's watch WrestleMania 3. So we ADD brains. We both went and watched WrestleMania 3 yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And there were small person wrestlers, midgets as they called them back then. But
right.
And it reminded me that one of the first hats was ever given to me was by a person that I know from downtown, that is from town, but doesn't live in town. They just come around here and there, who was one of the first people that knew I did a wrestling podcast, and one of the first people who gave me a hat, because he goes to Micro City Wrestling, which is a huge deal here in the Detroit metro area. They are huge. They are awesome. We've been meaning to get to a show because, and he's like, they're my favorite promotion, and he brought me back a hat from
Very
the
cool.
promotion, and I have never worn it, and it also needs to go up on the wall because all the gifted hats are, or from people that are like people like Glow, go on the hat wall. And I think that I was like, crap, that's right, I do have that. And so
I'm glad
that's why I'm wearing that one today. So
Very
big
cool.
shout out to them. And we have so much good wrestling here, like so much.
Yeah.
And we are way better fans than the Chicago fans. So stop Chicago.
Yeah, I heard somebody who was complaining about them the other night.
Literally everyone in the Discord.
Well, so. somebody else on Twitter was talking about how they were a dog shit crowd or something like that. And I was like, well, good, they're getting ready to have a residency in July. So
I don't know if Brad's around, but maybe
that's who it was. It probably was.
Brad was very disconcerted by. He was like, "Come here, we would be like." It's too bad, and especially I think the really big thing, especially, was like having Sabu pass away, and then have the Wednesday crowd kind of be. That's, I think, where the dog shit comment came from, was just like, it's too bad this happened between. It's like. You know, I can't say whatever, but Tony did guarantee and promise us pay-per-views, so
well,
but you're right, and you know what? It's a good point, because I didn't even think about that when I was slagging on the fact that they book in Chicago too much, and then this very week they announced that they're going to do a residency there for like 6 weeks, right?
Yep. Something like that, something close. Yeah, I think it's like 6 weeks, something like that. But typically, Chicago is a loud crowd. Typically, they are one of the loudest crowds that AEW has always had, which is why they go there so often. And so I don't know what was going on this week. Maybe the economy is just hitting everybody.
That's what I'm thinking, though.
And maybe that, and just the world. Maybe even wrestling couldn't pull it out of them this week. I hope when the residency comes back to town that they will be their normal loud selves. Because even when WWE was there a few weeks ago, when I was watching, they were their normal loud selves. So I don't know what was going on. Maybe this was a mic 12. I don't know. Chicago typically is an amazing wrestling crowd, and which is again why they go back so often. But this week, I don't know what was going on.
I think the economic factor is huge. I do think that is playing a part. I think it's going to hit everybody. I think it's hitting harder. You're going to see it more and more because people just don't have the disposable income. I don't know if it's oversaturation with them, though, because they have booked there more than...
I mean, it is certainly
possible. Basically, Daly's Place 2.0 up there.
Right. I mean, at least during that 6 weeks, they won't be at the Now Arena. So they'll be in a smaller venue. So maybe being in a smaller venue, and they're going to they have various things. Like I saw when I posted the press release that they sent me, it did say that you could also buy 6-pack tickets as well. So like if you want to go to every single show, like they have packages for that. So hopefully it will be loud people buying those packages if they're able to. But
it's in the summer, right?
I believe it's I can't remember off the top. It's after All In, I think. And I think it's like the rest of July, I want to say.
Okay, because I was gonna say if it's during, and that sounds like that's G1 season, so that'll be interesting. But that isn't the worst idea now that I'm thinking about it. And maybe in that time of the summer, if it's going to be a reasonably priced regular thing for a residency, because that's like a run of a play, or
right,
maybe because it's summer and people are looking for. I'm now like, do I want to drive to Chicago sometime in July? Because it's only 5 hours.
It might be worth it.
That's not.
And
the
there's
worst.
two. There
And I
are
love
two,
Chicago. I mean, Chicago's
two live collisions on Thursdays during that residency too.
All right. If I have, we'll see. I mean, if I had cash around, I might, think about it. Now that I
totally
never thought about it till I thought about it. See,
you never know. Well, keep us posted on if you go.
Well, if I go, it will automatically be louder because I'll bring that Detroit energy.
Yeah, of course. So yes. Jermaine asked, can someone explain what happened to Collision? Yes, there were technical difficulties. Tony, I was on live coverage, and so I was a bit behind because I was covering one of the matches put me behind, and then I was finishing up the street fight when I saw people in Slack saying what happened, and then they sent a tweet from Tony, and Tony apologized. He said something happened because they filmed Wednesday night after Dynamite, and so he was like, something happened with the remaining half hour. We apologize. It'll be the West Coast feed won't be affected. It'll be up available to stream on demand on Max later, and also the TNT app. Well, then I saw last night around a few hours later, Tony said, we thought we fixed it. The West Coast, it cut off for the West Coast too. So something happened, I'm guessing, to the tape, basically the tape. It sounds like something happened. And so, but Triller, people who watch on Triller were able to see it. And because it was pre-taped, I had already seen the spoilers earlier on the night, so I knew what happened So the matches that did not air, we thankfully got the Mongo tribute,
right?
And then it cut off. They cut to commercial awkwardly, and then it just went into Black Adam. And so people were joking that it was The Rock that he cut off. To start Black Adam.
Makes some of the tweets that I saw make so much more sense right now. Okay.
Yes. And he's
meddling in both promotions.
Yes. They went to oh, hello. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, so the last two matches that did not air, one was the number one contender to the tag team titles. So the winner would face Hurt Syndicate at Double or Nothing. So it was Crew versus Sons of Texas, who are also the ROH tag team champions. So why are they in this match? Because this is what we do here with ROH. And I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it because I'm sure the match will get confirmed. But Sons of Texas won. So yeah, the ROH tag team champions will be challenging the AEW tag team champions at Double or Nothing, because it's what we do here with ROH. Because as I always say, what are we doing here? Well, this is what we do here.
I was gonna give you the chance before I was like, is she gonna say it?
I'm gonna say it.
She has to say it. That's Sam's signature.
I'm answering my own question of what are we doing here? This is what we do here. That's the answer to the question, apparently.
One of our apparels would just be Sam just quoted, what are we doing here? And
then it just says, it has a little dash and says Sam.
Sam. That's great. Yeah,
sure we'll say.
And then we will have the honorary broad stuff, and then we'll have the what are we doing here stuff.
Right. And then we'll have a timekeepers.
Of course, the timekeepers always, because Mike Gilbert has been just getting on our case. Mr. Gilbert is angry with us now. So.
Surprise, surprise! He's always angry with someone.
I can't wait.
So are you telling me there's a potential for 3 belts, Dustin Rhodes? Yes, I am telling you. There is the potential for Dustin Rhodes 3 belts.
Why not? I mean,
in the year 2025. That is what I'm telling you.
Oh goodness!
And then of course the main event was Powerhouse Hobbs versus Wheeler Yuta. I saw clips because obviously, like I said, Triller was able to air it with no issue, and so I saw some clips, and I had obviously, because I read the spoilers, I believe actually I read the spoilers, but I don't know that I actually read who won that one. I was reading because I was trying to see if it was the match order, and then the match order was not what I had seen from the spoilers, but obviously it may have been filmed that way, and then they edited it, to be a different way. Anyway, so I do know that Willow got involved, and she confronted Yuta and got in his face
Nice.
And I want we've talked about this. I want Willow to fight every member of Death Riders because I know they all fear her.
Death Riders fear Willow,
as they should be. And also, while we're speaking of Willow, congrats to Willow on re-signing with AEW. I'm so glad that they signed her. I think it was to a multi-year deal. It's really all we know, which I'm so glad because Willow is incredible and hopefully
business.
With her staying in AEW, she'll get to still do CMLL and Stardom and New Japan if that's what she wants to do. Hopefully, this also means Willow will be a women's world champion at some point because that is an agenda that I think we can all get behind.
Oh my God, please. I want that. Put that in my veins. She got the biggest, like, of course she did, but I mean, and it happens every time I've seen her, but just that venue, she got the biggest, most ginormous pop when she came out. Nobody is unhappy when Willow comes out. She beat up Marina on our show. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think Marina ran the clip that I saw. Marina ran from her last night. Understandably so. I don't know if I'm sure there was more to it, but again, that's just a little clip that
we went on the app real quick. We went on the apps, both the TNT and the Max apps today to try and see if we could see what got cut off, and it's not up yet. So
still? Because I stuck
as of about 2 hours ago.
Yeah,
on Eastern Standard Time.
Around
we couldn't find them. We even had to search and couldn't find them on either.
Yeah, see, that's what we did. So last night after, like, while we were waiting around, it was already like 10:45 ish. And so I asked my editor, I said, do you want me to just stay till 11 and see if it's up? And he was like, sure. And I waited a few minutes past 11 just to give it time. And I had to search for it like you did. And like, it just had all the upcoming shows, but that one was not
exactly
one of them.
We had.
And so I don't know what happened to that footage. And hopefully it didn't get but Triller has it. So
something.
So it's there. So I don't know if they'll end up uploading it to YouTube as well, to the AEW YouTube, because one of them will lead to a match at Double or Nothing because it was the title match, which we will get to the matches that were added.
Need to fix that.
Let me get some of these. I'm going to get to some of these comments here. Yes. Crash TV says Willow was one of the great throwback theme intro tunes. Sounds like 80s Prince and the Revolution track. Totally. Yes, I love it. Which is one of her
entrance music.
I also love Speedball's music, the Ultra 84, because it has at the beginning it does kind of still sound like Brass Monkey a little bit, but then it just goes into this 80s beat break dancing. I don't know. It's perfect for Speedball. Like Mikey Ruckus knew what he was doing. Also, speaking of theme songs, apparently because I started it late because we were taking care of our dad's dog, so we got back late and started late. So I had missed it, and so apparently the people hated Mina Shirakawa's new music.
Oh my gosh, there was a lot of controversy around that.
So Mikey Ruckus had to go on Twitter and was like, the person who created Mercedes Monet's theme created this. It has Mina singing on it. He was not throwing any shade at all. He's just like, I didn't do this. But people were just coming at Mikey and were like, your music is really good, but I hate this. And and he was like, I didn't do this one. And then apparently Tony was on social media and saw that people didn't like it and changed it back.
Yep.
So I was like, I mean, I guess in some cases they do listen to the people. In some cases, maybe not so much with the Death Rider stuff, but or women main eventing, which we will also get to. So I'll save it for the other topics. But let me get there. There's a couple of comments that I wanted to read over here. Yeah, Jermaine said that he missed the Willow segment and Willow at the end last night. Yeah, there was a segment between Willow and Chris as well that I didn't see, but apparently.
Oh, that's right. Like you said, with their building.
Yep. Chris still beat her because of the interference from Marina, so there was something related to that. Crash TV 83 says, thought Ric Flair called it early, saying that's all folks at the end of the Monster tribute.
Yeah, right.
And Maria said, I thought it was just a short collision this week and the Mongo McMichael tribute was the main event. Apparently you're not the only one, and I could see because of the way it cut at because it
basically cut off right at the end of that.
Yeah, it abruptly went to commercial. And then, of course, we were behind. And so by that point, I'd already heard that it had canceled. But yeah, all of a sudden, like, so Nikki was fast forwarding just to make sure. And she was like, Black Adam is on. And I was like, okay, well.
You know what? It's so funny because I was like, it ended. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, wait, no. And then I was like, okay, I'm tired. I don't care. I'm not thinking about this too hard. I handed him the remote and went to bed. And then he fell asleep too. And it was just like, oops. So
yeah, that just kind of crashed. I was like, woo, time to go home, folks.
Yeah, seriously. I think I was tired enough last night that I didn't think about it, like being early because of the like overrun thing and a little bit. And I was just like, oh, whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute. And then he said to me this morning, okay, we got to go finish watching Collision. And I was like, no, it cut off. I was like, the combination of us being exhausted and it cutting off, we were just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it was over.
That's what happens when you get old, kids. Sorry. you don't stop to question, but then you wake up and you do get on socials and you're like, TF? Question mark?
Yes.
So
yes.
Fortunately, I didn't like it. We were like, we had tornadoes and stuff here. We didn't sleep through those, but we slept through the glitch at the collision situation. So we only sleep through the right stuff, apparently.
Good. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
So Maria asks an important question that I often ask when it comes to tag team wrestling in general, not just with AEW, but it's something I was just talking about the SmackDown division on Friday when I was writing about it, because as much as WWE treats it like a checklist, at least the wrestlers give a damn, because DIY and Fraxium had a banger on Friday night. So at least they care. They're like, the powers that be don't give a shit about us, but we know we have some fans who do. So we're just going to deliver this banger real quick.
I think what we need to do, Sam, is we need to do what everyone else does, where we need to start a hashtag, what are we doing here? So just anytime somebody's doing some BS in one of these promotions, just hashtag Sam or the Powerbombshells at what are we, like, hashtag what are we doing here? So, and this will start it up perfectly.
There we go. Maria asked, what is Tony doing with the tag team division? Grizzled Young Veterans, Private Party, and Outrunners and Gates of Agony are more intriguing challenges for the Hurt Syndicate than Dustin and Sammy.
True story.
Yes, and I will say this, and I've said it a million times. I love Dustin Rhodes. I think he's great. I feel like they've used him really well. I don't have a problem with him being on TV, especially in some of these singles matches he had been getting. But I don't know why and not just Dustin and Sammy. I just don't know why an ROH tag team champions are getting a title shot for AEW's champions while they're both holding titles. I do feel like some of this is because Buddy Matthews is injured. There's been no timetable for his return. And so they can't do that, because I think Hounds of Hell was going to be the ones to take it off of Hurt Syndicate. I don't know that they have done it now at Double or Nothing. I don't know. But I think because they don't know when he's coming back, they're just kind of scrambling. But they have other tag teams, like you said, Grizzled Young Veterans, who they've barely used. And they have, I believe, GYV holds titles in 3 other promotions right now.
It took me a second when we were in the venue, when they were doing that promo, because they did show it on a screen on the stage where they showed GYV cut their promo backstage. And it took everyone a second. And it was like, oh yeah, GYV is here, because they've wrestled in Detroit on the indies. They were on our Progress show.
Right.
It's not like we didn't know who they were. It just took everyone a second to go, be like, that's right. They have GYV here.
Yeah. And so GYV has, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they're the current Deadlock Pro tag champions. And then they have the titles in 2 other, I'm pretty sure they have them in 3 promotions right now.
It's not like they're
not I guess
wrestling.
That's part of the reason they haven't been on TV, is because they've been busy. They've been busy with other organizations. However, again, they're not the only tag team. Private Party has been MIA basically since they lost the titles. They haven't even had a rematch for their tag titles. And, that's a thing in wrestling where they almost everybody automatically gets a rematch. We haven't seen Private Party even try to come back. They were, I guess, embarrassed so badly that they didn't.
Man, we were so happy to see Outrunners.
And then the Outrunners, I think what happened was that with them is they got exposed a little bit in the pay-per-view match where they had the title, and I think they kind of took them off TV a little bit to just kind of, and I think they were getting a little oversaturated with it because I love the Outrunners, but of course they obviously do kind of the same stuff. And after like once you've seen one Outrunners match, you've kind of seen them all, and I don't mean that in a bad way because I love the Outrunners. I think they're fun. I really enjoy them. But so I wonder if that's another reason. But like, where the hell are the Guns? They came back. Right. They challenged Hurt Syndicate, and they haven't been on TV since. Where are they at? They
even came out at our show for like 2 seconds, and then
and
they had that moment. Because Billy Gunn is super over here, so I mean, I'm sure that's part of the reason they had to come out, but. They came out, they were out for 5 seconds. They cut like a 2-second promo and went back in, and that's the last we've seen of them. I mean, obviously that's a week ago, but but still, they weren't out. That was that was more for a pop than that wasn't an angle. That was to get a pop.
And so I don't, and then I was going to say, like, if they're going to use ROH tag teams, then don't use the ones who have titles, but they've been using Gates of Agony. And that street fight was a lot of fun. And Brian Keith and Big Bill, I think they're doing a really great job. I don't like them in the Jericho Vortex. I want Brian Keith far, far away from that. Yes. But Brian Keith and Big Bill have been doing well on screen without him. Yeah, and huge. So, like, I really enjoy that street fight. I wanted Gates of Agony to win that one, but part of it is because not that, and I love Brian Keith and I like Big Bill a lot. Like, I like them as a team, but I love Gates of Agony. I've been watching them kill it in ROH for months, and so there's that. You have the Infantry, like Shane Taylor Promotions was like pretty active on Collision, and now they're not. And so, and then Lady B says that the reactions that Top Flight and the crew got on Wednesday was sad to see. No reactions, none at all, which is unfortunate because we were excited. Both great tag teams. They've been telling a really good story. And that tornado tag match that they had like 2 or 3 weeks ago was a lot of fun. It was awesome. And I don't know what the disconnect is. And then I kind of thought, I guess they're saving the Lio Rush, Bobby Lashley in-ring stuff. And that, because I assumed when they came out, on Dynamite and they made this match, I assumed Crew was winning because they've been featured a lot on Collision. They Sons of Texas again already have titles, and there's the Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley connection from WWE. So I thought this is where we were going, but apparently not this month. maybe they're gonna do that. Maybe they're holding it off for All In, but I don't know. Or maybe they're just teasing it a little bit and we'll get it, later on in the year. I don't know. The tag team division has been, again, we've talked about this a lot, how this tag team division when AEW first started was the best. It was deep, deep, deep. And now it's been an afterthought for a couple of years. And even prior to Hurt Syndicate winning it, that they barely did anything with Private Party when they were the champions. They had a terrible tag team run, and it was not their fault. It was booking. And so that's why we talked about, like, when Motor City were free agents, we're like, well, where do you put both companies don't care about tag team wrestling? Like, and so now they're trying to get there, which again is what I go back to about the women's tag team division and AEW. Look at how they book the men. I'm afraid that and we already have issues with the way they book the women. Granted, yes, it's probably the best it's been. It's gotten better. Cautiously optimistic, but that's one of my main concerns with the tag team division is because they can barely book the men's tag team division. How are they going to book the women's tag team division? But then obviously there are pros and cons to both things. But that's, I don't know. I hope they get it and figured out because I love tag team wrestling.
Same. And I mean, this place was mostly founded almost entirely by a freaking tag team that put on arguably the greatest tag team match of all time.
Right.
Dave Meltzer basically said that was the greatest tag team match of all time with Hangman and Kenny. And
right. It's one of their best ones. And then they had on the top. And again, they had the 7-match series between the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. That was one of my favorite series of matches. Match 7, yes, that was probably the pinnacle, but match 6
everybody didn't
up to it was really good too,
and ended up wanting it.
Yeah, and then they've had the parking lot brawls that they did, and especially the first one, which was Best Friends versus Proud and Powerful, which was amazing, and still forever mad at Tony for never belting either one of them with the tag titles. And now they're not tag teams anymore, and it's probably never happening with them. And so, the tag team division is something I love, but it makes me sad the way that it's.
Me too. I have to agree with Sam on this one.
Yeah, Fernando says Gates of Agony versus Bill and Keith was excellent. They should have had a series push a long time ago. Agreed. Cash TV 83 says there's a lot of that AEW. No, not just the tag team division roster is stacked. I'd put the Guns and maybe Gates of Agony further up the food chain for opportunities, though, for sure. Just on their in-ring flex. Yeah, same. And yes, it is. It is a company-wide issue for sure.
Yeah.
Lauren says that I don't think Mina's song was that bad. People just needed to give it a chance. Yeah, from what it was hard to hear, but from the little bit I heard, I thought it was fine. I think maybe if it had, I get, like, I guess people are used to the original, the way she dances with it.
We angry. We hate change.
I think he was a little hasty to go back and change it that quickly.
Human just like change, make angry.
Yeah,
make loud on internet. So I'm sorry. That's just that kind of
that's
thing.
Pretty much what that's how
I feel about that stuff. It's just like everybody's lizard brain kicks in and they're like, me hate change. No new music. Yuck. You mean because you make music? It's like, dude, I didn't even make the effing music. What's your problem?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they went after Mikey Ruckus, and he's like, bro, I didn't.
Just because I make wrestling music doesn't mean I make.
He was like, because I know that he makes a majority of the in-house music, but like, legitimately, he said, and anytime it's not his music, he will say who it is, or he will.
Does not take over credit, other creative artists so that people won't go to AI.
Right. And listen, that song is way better than the crap that most WWE theme songs sound like now, because most of those songs are awful.
Garbage.
They're god awful.
They're terrible.
But Mikey, regardless whether the song is good or bad, he will not take credit for something he didn't create. He will say,
because he's a proper artist and he understands. Right. And that's because that's not cool, man. And
I'm sure if I make beats with here, they would be right here.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's certainly true. We love the wrestling music makers. We totally give them shouts out, and we don't accuse them of making bad things that they didn't make. And also, hey, international wrestling community on socials, tap the brakes, take a breath, look around, do some grounding exercises, okay? Show me something that's yellow. Show me something that's brown. Deep breaths. Go touch the grass. Okay. Like what you like. It's all right.
We're gonna get to the Gabe Kid stuff. Don't worry.
Oh
worry.
Man. I'm gonna say right now that one thing real quick is they picked the wrong week. If they'd done that a week earlier, they would have gotten a proper reaction on that.
Well, I'll save it for when we get to that conversation.
Save it to the thing. Yeah.
But since
we will get to that.
And since you mentioned the international crowd, we will definitely get to the Gabe Kid stuff. Yes. Lady B said things seem to only revolve around Tony, Mercedes, and Mariah. And previously Mariah, perhaps now that Mina is around, Tony will prioritize her as well as whatever she's doing to consistently get on TV. They've already announced her for a match this week. She is wrestling Julia Hart, who is Skye Blue. I think their reasoning was because she's Skye Blue's mentor, and that's how we're getting this match.
Whatever.
So Mina will be on TV. She's wrestling on Dynamite. The Spider is here. Hello, thank you for joining us. Laurent says, no Universal Dustin to be a 2-time champion with a chance at a third. I mean, I don't hate Dustin as much as a lot of other people do. But I'm not saying Laurent hates him. That title match should not be happening. I'm very annoyed with it for multiple reasons.
There's, at this point, even Dustin should know better at this point. I mean, he should be like passing the, you know what I mean? And
I don't think it's Dustin. It's not like Dustin.
Yeah, you're right. It's not up to him. He's not the booker.
Tony.
Yeah, you're right. He's not the booker.
This. Lauren asked, does Top Flight need to go to ROH? Just go to ROH at this point. They've gotten buried the last 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know if it'll make a difference if you aren't watching. I mean, maybe for us, because I do watch so that I get good matches, but don't know. Fernando says that Megan Bain is becoming a bigger star week after week. Yes, I still really enjoy her. I'm glad they found something for Penelope to do because I think Penelope is underrated. Obviously, she was gone for a couple of years for various reasons. So I'm glad to see her back in the mix. I'd like to see her wrestle a little bit more, but maybe once this tournament is over and if we get a new champion at All In, we'll have some new contenders for these women. Fernandez is very proud of Mina getting her title shot versus Timeless. Yeah, I think so too. The Spider says that Meltzer star ratings are as accurate as the Michigan weather TV forecasters. That's why I don't pay attention to star ratings in most cases because I don't care. Yes, Tekla did sign. I said a couple of weeks ago or I guess last week that I expect her to show up at Double or Nothing. Is my guess. Yeah. Especially because they usually do at least one big arrival at Double or Nothing, and I think it's going to be Tekla. Laura says they didn't have a better matchup for Mina than Julia. Why is Julia getting hate? She's a former TBS champion. Why are we hating on her? What did Julia do? Fernanda says, what are your thoughts? I think people are making controversy where there is none.
I agree, although I think that
we don't know why there's been the autopsy results have not come out. We don't know what he passed away from. Joey Janela did not kill him.
But they shouldn't be pushing the narrative either. They should not be leaning into that shit.
But the interview that was done right after the match, apparently, from what I've heard, Brett was really upset with that interview and talked to Joey about it, but the interview had already ran and there was nothing they could do about it. And then nobody apparently very much paid attention to it until Sabu died. Or maybe it was, I don't know. You know what? Maybe it was, I know the interview was done immediately after the match. I don't know when it was, I don't remember when it was officially published, but regardless.
I think I agree with you on the whole. I think the macro picture here is that this is a tragedy. People's family are involved. Anyone that watched Dynamite this week heard Taz, and I talked about last week because that was a really good. It was like a brother. I mean, and he said it on air. I mean, I was saying that to you guys last week,
right? You were.
He said it right on air, and it takes a lot to break Taz in any form or fashion. Yeah. And I had a great amount of empathy and shout out to him for, paying tribute to his friend.
And then, Excalibur grabbed him on the shoulder and just because he could hear it and he just leaned over and just kind of like, it's okay. You made it through. I thought I think Taz was the appropriate person as you said, because of their relationship. I think that I think that he delivered it, and I think it was authentic. It was not I don't want to. I know I hate on WWE a lot, but like the way they handled it for a person who actually wrestled for them, and Pat McAfee kind of centered instead of reading his script first and then trying to relate to the fans. He centered it on himself first and then read. And I don't think that was his intent, but it was like, read your script, say what you got to say, then say, I was fortunate, I grew up in the ECW era. I watched him. Don't center it on yourself immediately. And again, I don't think it was purposeful, but looking at the way, and Michael Cole was fine. I thought it was the right tone or whatever, but I know it's obviously completely different because Michael Cole worked with Taz. And worked with Sabu, where Taz was a really good friend of his. They had a long running feud. So obviously there's going to be some contrast there, but it was too, and I get it. I know there are two different tones. And again, that's why I'm saying I'm trying not to hate on WWE, but at least in this case, the way that they handled, that, but I'm glad that Taz got that moment to reflect on his friend. And then if you did watch Dark Side of the Ring on Tuesday night, you got to see Sabu sounded great. He sounded healthy, but I don't know how far in advance they filmed these. It was filmed sometime last year, I believe. Mm-hmm. but he looked good. He looked healthy. But then you have Rob Van Dam, but then you see the family members who are family members of the Sheik, obviously family members of Sabu. And so I was thinking of them watching that, and then thinking of all the things that people are saying about Joey Janela and GCW and Brett Lauderdale, and their family they're in the middle of processing Sabu's death. And then now they're hearing these things, and people are throwing blame at people that we don't know what killed him, but the match was 3 weeks apart. It's not. Sabu was 60 years old, and it was the way Sabu and the way that his body was even 15 years ago. It's incredible he made it to 60. 60 is, yes, young. In the wrestling, maybe not so much.
In the wrestling,
the way that they put their bodies on the line for us, and maybe some of the things that they do outside of the ring that could affect their bodies. And so I don't think it's fair to blame them for his death, because we don't know why he died, and B, they didn't kill him.
I just think it's not unfair.
People have been telling Joey for days, you murdered Sabu, you murdered your idol.
Anyone who said that needs to get off the internet and go outside and take a deep breath. The rest of anyone leading into the idea here is that someone passed away, and if you're not paying tribute to them and you're creating there's a family grieving right here today. They lost a family member. That person's never coming back, and they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. It's pretty clear from that documentary. If you did watch that Dark Side, they're a pretty close family. And if you did read Brian Solomon's book, which I did, about the Sheik, you will understand how close that family truly is. I have a lot of empathy for them for many reasons. And I don't think it's cool or fair for anybody to overcomplicate, politicize, or speculate on the death of somebody's family member as someone who's lost family members and didn't have to have it politicized and, just had a normal loss in my family, and we all had to get through it together without having some outside group of people start a bunch of BS that complicated the grieving process for those people. So if you're in the camp of people or the group of people who are intentionally adding to the grief of this family and the friends of Sabu, you can go F yourself, because you're stupid and I don't like you and I don't want you to be part of my timeline, which is why I have a high filter on my situation and I curate my crap. Because as someone who's literally, I could only imagine when you're dealing with what you deal with when you lose somebody, having some outside BS group of people making extra controversy about it for their own purposes or for some carny, whatever the reasons are.
And Joey even said he was responding to someone on Sunday who accused him of killing him. He was like, I even talked to his family and they don't think that I did anything wrong. Like, even the family who was around him, like they don't think I did anything wrong, anything bad.
No one was going to stop Sabu from getting into that ring on that day. And that's the fact. And you only have to read every wrestling book that anybody's ever read, or every wrestling newsletter, or anything, is that a person with that level of commitment to what they're doing is never going to be stopped from getting into a ring, no matter who says so.
So before all this stuff came out, so I guess that was Monday, actually, when the accusation started, because Sunday, there was a JCW show, which is Jersey Championship Wrestling, and they opened with a tribute to Sabu, and then Joey came out and spoke, and he was clearly very emotional, and he even said that, he was like, Sabu was going to do whatever it took to be in that ring, and he was like, and he's like, I don't know if he knew at the time that his time was ending. He was like, I don't know. He was like, I don't know that he knew that. He was like, it kind of feels like maybe he knew something. And so he was determined to have that match, and he knew I was going to take care of him. And he came to me to have that match because he knew I would be the one. And he talked about like how they had some differences, because apparently Sabu and Joey wrestled in I can't remember the exact dates, like maybe 2013, something like that, maybe 2016, something like that. Regardless, he said that that Sabu was in no shape to wrestle then, and he didn't know it at the time. And he said he said Sabu was really mean to him, and so because he was in so much pain, and he's like, and so at the time he's like, I didn't like Sabu anymore because they say never meet your heroes, and then he said so it took, and then a few years later he met Sabu's wife, and they would run into him, and she was like, please, he would say to her, please tell Sabu that I love him, and all this stuff. And so she said eventually Sabu came down and they talked at this bar in Vegas for like an hour, and then they became friends after that. And so they had a really close relationship, it sounds like. And so I can't imagine what it would be like to be accused of killing your friend and your idol, and off of baseless claims. Because again, yes, I know the interview is awful and does not help things at all.
Of course
and
not.
Hopefully Joey learned his lesson when it comes to saying things in print or on video. And I'm not excusing him for that, because he should know better. But
especially at this point.
Again, we do not know what caused his death. And to accuse him of this when we don't even know what he died from is not fair. And it's not fair, even if we did know. It's probably still not a fair thing to say. So I just spent a little bit more time on this than I had planned to.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, it's important to talk about. I think, and I do think it's important.
I think you need to call. I mean, if somebody is telling somebody on Twitter that they did that out of the blue like that, like you said, baselessly just throwing that, those people need to be called out for their trash behavior, because people are grieving.
Yeah.
And grief sucks.
It does.
And you don't need to be adding to that. And you're not a good person. Like, go figure out some way to make your life better, because that's not cool. That is a bad way to behave to your fellow man.
I don't think I was gonna say, I don't think Sabu would want that. But then Joey tweeted Monday or Tuesday and said, if there is a heaven, Sabu is probably laughing his ass off at all of this.
Right. Yeah, I've had moments like that with friends. It's one of the weirdest things that happened to me, and this is kind of like a relational thing, is we were at the funeral of a friend, and some weird thing happened that I remember, like, I chuckled, and Bob was like elbowing me because it's a funeral, and I was like, I know, but Doug would just think that was hilarious.
Right.
And it was horrible because it was one of those moments. But the point about that is that people need to understand, like, that people are processing stuff here, and you're being mean.
Right.
Don't be mean. The first rule of progress wrestling is don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. Yeah, and if Crash TV says it's just a bunch of fake controversy, which yes, it is.
It's gross. I mean, that's kind of ghoulish when you think about it.
You're taking away from Sabu and what he means
to be celebrated and tributed, because the fact of the matter is, every time you scream "get the tables," it's because of Sheik and Sabu. So.
Right. Also, shout out to so Sabu. There's a GoFundMe to pay for Sabu's funeral and anything else that needs to be taken care of, and Chris Jericho donated like $5,000,
which he does a lot. I always give him not a surprise for that. Yeah.
And then there was like an anonymous $10,000 donation, and then like I didn't see it until after it had happened, but Scott D'Amore he posted around 6 p.m. Friday night, and so from like 6 to 10
Saturday morning,
anything that was donated, he would match dollar for dollar. So he donated over $15,000 to him, which is incredible. And then you had, various other wrestlers and of course fans who are getting involved. So I'm glad that Sabu was being taken care of that way by his wrestling community and by fans.
I have no insight
in this country that that people often have to rely on GoFundMe for these things.
Someone made the point that neither Sabu or Mongo McMichael's family should have to use GoFundMe's
no, they should not.
But
which is unfortunate to see that. However, the fact that it, the community still came together, regardless of the fact of he shouldn't have to have had that, but to see the wrestling community come together. And we've talked about how sometimes the wrestling community can be really, really great. And they can come through like they, when I posted the stuff about Sunny we had people in the wrestling community who donated to that, which was really incredible. And, and Vidkin says it's typical Jericho, which we've talked about that a lot with Jericho about.
Hey, I have my beefs with Jericho and his stuff in the ring, but outside the ring, I will always give him his props. Is that man has given more money to charities and such like that. He does it all the time. I wouldn't be shocked. I have no inside information. I wouldn't be shocked if that's Moxley that threw in on that, because he does all the time. I know he did it during the pandemic for people.
Yeah, they were out here buying, and Leo, and even Leo Rush was out there doing that. He was buying merch of independent wrestlers during the pandemic. And because I wrote an article about it and he retweeted it, but he was doing some of that stuff. But yes, Jericho, was really great about that. And again, Jericho should not be having to donate. I mean, of course they were friends and they were, and I think he would have done it anyway, but it's good to see that he does do things like that. Also, I guess to sort of move away from this topic, we have some breaking news that I was just sent. That Darby Allin has reached the top of Mount Everest.
No kidding.
This is a screenshot that Fightful posted. It says back to Camp 4, May 18th, 12:20 p.m. local time. After summiting, the team had a much faster descent, arriving back into Camp 4. They will spend the afternoon refueling and sleeping after a mammoth night on the mountain. Tomorrow, a descent to Camp 2 and then into base camp. And you'll get to hear the story from Darby himself. Congratulations again to Darby and Dorje. I hope I pronounced that right. And he lists some other people who were involved. And it says, thank you for being to Pimba is one of the people who was involved. It says, thank you for being our cook and having water ready for everyone's return. So here is yep, he actually did it. And so that is, just got a friend just sent that to the chat, and I went to see what it was, and I was hoping it was not bad news. Luckily it was not.
That's great.
So again, I did see something about how it could take Mount Everest can take anywhere from 6 weeks to, I think, I forget what the time frame was, and they were saying, especially for inexperienced climbers, it can take obviously even longer. And then there's the descent, and then he has to reacclimate his body before he even thinks about wrestling. And I know Darby being Darby, I'm sure he's going to push those boundaries, but it could be still a while before he's ready to go. Crash TV says, congrats to Darby. Now that's what he calls hardcore. Yeah, I think climbing Mount Everest is pretty hardcore.
It's pretty cool. I mean,
So there is that update. And I guess we will get into, we talked about a little bit. Perhaps because All In is what? It's 50. I think, what did they say last night? 59 days away. I don't know that he wrestles though. I don't know, because I don't know. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know how long it takes your body to get used to it. Then he has to.
Well, I mean, the descent. They've got the descent, which is the portion of the descent, they'll do it at a pace that will help your body acclimate to the elevation, reacclimate. Right. It's like you coming. I have a good friend who's actually a scuba guy. He high level can do repairs underwater and stuff, and it's the opposite of coming up from the bottom of you're coming down from the mountain, but when you come up from the bottom of the ocean, it's a similar thing, and you have to adjust your it's a gas thing and all of these, but it gives you it takes time. But Navy guys are submarine guys that are on submarines come back from that pretty easily. So I guess it just depends on how your body reacts to altitude readjustment. And I think they come down again, just like you have to come up slowly from the bottom of the sea. You have to come down slowly from that level.
Yeah, I mean, Laurent might be right. Maybe he does just make an appearance. And I actually wanted to go back to Laurent.
I was gonna say the same thing. I agree with that. Is that I wouldn't be surprised if he just came out for a pop and welcome back. I just summited Mount Everest and
I'm alive. I'm here.
Thanks for supporting me. You'll see me soon, and it's great to be back. I mean,
which would be that would be a really long time, but a cool show for him to come back on it, because even though it wouldn't be till December, there would be Winter is Coming, because that's where Sting debuted. That would be kind of but again, that's clearly a long
Really
way
long
away, and
time.
I don't think he can stay away till December.
Well, now he's going to be bored. Now he's climbed Mount Everest. What's he going to do now?
Right, exactly.
What's he got
be
left?
Be a normal human and just do nothing.
He's like,
and
now
I
I'm
did want to go back
to
to Laurent's comment where he said he was not hating on Julia. She isn't that strong of a wrestler, and this match should be a showcase for Mina. I mean, I guess it will be. But I see what you mean. He did say Darby is built different. That guy's shown time and time again he's not human. Right. And so, Jermaine says, I don't expect Darby back until November or December. It's going to take him a while to get his body right. Plus, he has to get back in wrestling shape.
Fair.
Bring it back at Wrestling is Coming. Wrestling is coming.
Winter is coming.
But winter is coming. Maybe Sting comes and says, what's up, too?
We're a week off of Memorial Day and talking about winter. Hey, knock it off, all right? Give me a break.
Darby Allin, literally the king of the mountain. Yeah, literally for sure.
I'm just glad he made it. Good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like right on. That's really cool.
So one of our topics this week, obviously, and we've talked about it a little bit here and there, but we did get on this show on Dynamite. We did get the return of Skye Blue, who was out with a femur injury, which apparently I've seen a few quotes from her. Apparently, she was considering retirement, and Kyle had to talk her off the ledge and be like, "It's going to be okay. Give it time. We'll work through this together." And he apparently was really helped her through that period. And obviously we saw her back in the 4-way match, which was kind of an interesting way to bring her in. I mean, I guess that makes sense because she hasn't been on TV in months. And so she was in the title eliminator match against Timeless Tony Storm, and then Azumi, who I did put Azumi returns to AEW because technically, even though she is not signed to AEW, she has wrestled for Dynamite. I believe I believe this is her first Dynamite, but she's been on Collision before.
She has been on TVs before.
Yeah, she has been on TV, so I counted it in the return.
She's right
because she's
not
wrestled.
wrong.
Even I know she's not.
I did the
AEW,
title. I would have corrected it. She is correct. I know.
Like,
I remember.
On a technicality, she's returning.
She was in there. I remember. I was like, I remember when you actually reminded me when you said it. I was like, oh, that's right. She did wrestle the one time. I remember.
I had to double check to make sure I wasn't thinking of
we had just talked about her the week before, is what it was, and that was why I remember. So it flagged it in my weird brain. So I was like, Sam was correct.
And then, of course, we got Mina's debut. She was her return to AEW, but her debut as a member of the AEW roster. Her new thing now is Mina Now, which is interesting, but that's her new thing, her new slogan. And she had new music, which apparently the internet hated. And Tony was like, okay, we'll change it back. And how we knew he changed it back is because Mina won that match. She got, and so at the beginning, she came out to her new song. At the end, she walked out to her old song. I'm sure she was confused because I'm sure she had no clue and was like, why is my old music playing? And then Tony was probably backstage and was like, the internet hated your music, so we're using your old one. Sorry about it.
That poor thing. He's back there like blinking like he was on Wednesday night going, switch it back.
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe if she believes in the song enough, she'll just be like, you know what? I want this to be
Tony,
my song.
play that music and don't do that again or I will come at you. And
you
know I can kick your ass. You want your ass kicked by a girl, Tony? You really need that in your life right now?
So
do you know how the internet reacts to you getting your ass kicked by a girl right now?
I would. Well, I'm not going to even.
Let's not go.
Yes, Skye Blue did have. Skye did have a very cool hometown reaction, and Fernando says Skye looked really good for someone who's missed so much time from injury. Yeah, and it was smart to put her in. Maybe not necessarily a title eliminator match, but to put her in a match with other women who could help her kind of get the ring rust off. Reestablish herself. I'm glad that they waited until she got to be in her hometown. I think she really probably needed that, just because she was so doubtful about potentially not coming back. And Crash says, it must have been hard. She was really finding her groove before that unfortunate spot with Sheeta. She was doing some real hardcore spots in the lead up to that match. Yeah, that match was incredible, and she really was kind of, she was finding her groove and finally really getting it. It was just a really unfortunate timing for that. And so I hope it doesn't take her too long to kind of, find her groove again, but I'm glad to see her back. I really enjoy Skye a lot.
Yeah.
I love her with Julia. I hope that they can kind of resume some of the stuff that they were doing before. If they are looking at doing women's tag team division,
there you go.
You've got those two there. You've got Harley and Anna Jay, which we will get to. Laurent wanted us to talk about it, so we will get to that too. Jermaine says, so Fightful said that Mina would get a huge push, and she is. Mina got a title shot. Now what about Tekla? Who do you feud her with? Will it be Athena for the ROH title? And then Laurent asks, so this kind of goes together, that do you think Mina takes the title off Tony at Double or Nothing? I'm going to start with Laurent's question. No, I don't think so. I don't think you get this close to All In to have Tony lose that title. I don't think so. However, I do think this is if she is saying this could be how we get Mariah back on TV. It's because Mina is the bait. And Mina, could Mariah come in and inadvertently cost Mina the title because she doesn't want Mina to have her title? I guess there's also the possibility that she could help Mina win the title and then try to take it from her, or they be like co-champions or whatever. But my guess is no, Tony. I assume Tony retains and takes it into All In because I don't think you can get this close to All In to have her lose it. And I don't think that would be fair to Mina because I think people would, I don't want to say resent Mina, but I think that the crowd reaction to Mina would not be so kind if she's the one to defeat Tony now at Double or Nothing.
You're probably right.
What are your thoughts on that one?
I think you're probably right. I think that stands to reason. And you don't want to set Mina up for failure when you just pulled her into the thick of things. Like you want her to be well represented and get the right push so that she can be in the championship picture and not have her have people be angry at her.
Mm-hmm. I think it would sour her title run if that were the case.
We don't want to set her back before she's even started.
Yeah. Vinkin says Tony isn't losing it till All In. Megan Bain didn't even hang on, I'm trying to click it. It's not cooperate. There we go. Megan Bain didn't even win it. I mean, I think he's just asking a question. And which is a fair question because like you said, you're pushing her. Yep. Mina is a former champion in Stardom. I think Mina is a really good choice because of their story together. Because obviously there was the Tony and Mariah situation, and then Mina was involved in that, and then Tony went to Stardom. And Mariah didn't know that while she was champion, Tony and was wrestling with Mina. They were teaming up together. So it's really interesting. So I guess it makes sense that Mina would be the one to win that title match. I'm glad that I'm glad that Tony is getting a title match at Double or Nothing. I think Mina is a good challenger for her. I think that's potentially, if Mariah is re-signing, that could be how they bring Mariah back to TV. I think might be where they're going with that. As far as Tekla goes, I don't know. See, because Tekla, obviously, she cost Athena at Wrestle Dynasty. And so I think, so Tekla could potentially cost Athena at Double or Nothing, but I think that I think Mercedes is losing. I'm sorry, Athena's not wrestling for that title. I think I got my wires confused. I think Athena is costing Mercedes at Double or Nothing. I don't think Tekla is involved with that, but she could be, depending on if Athena gets frustrated enough. But I think Athena wants revenge on Mercedes for taking the Owen away from her and a title shot away from her. So I think that's where we're going. I think that's how we get to Mercedes and Athena at All In. And I think we're doing Jamie and Tony at All In. And I think that's where I think Jamie is beating her at All In. And like you and I discussed.
Not at Forbidden Door?
No, Jamie's going into Forbidden Door as champion.
As champion.
Yes. Because they're not going to do, I don't think they're going to do they wouldn't do that title match at Forbidden Door. I think, and because I think we talked about it last week or the week before. I think that, and I know we'll talk about it next week with the Double or Nothing pre-show. But I stand by. I think Jamie wins. I think she takes the title into Forbidden Door. I think Will Ospreay beats Hangman Page at Double or Nothing. I think Will Ospreay beats Jon Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you have 2 British champions going into Forbidden Door. And then I think that that potentially Kenny Omega will be the one to take the title off of Will Ospreay next year. So at some point, I think that's my hot take. Long term booking. I think that's where we're going with that.
Now, do you think Okada Omega 5 happens on All In still? Or do you think they push that further down?
It could. I mean, perhaps they save it for Forbidden Door. But they're both AEW already. They say they're AEW talent already. I don't know that they do. I know clearly there's the New Japan history, obviously, but they're both AEW talent, and I think you should not. I would not do it at Forbidden Door just because it's supposed to be AEW versus New Japan. It's not really that. It's never really been booked that way. They should book it that way. Perhaps maybe they did decide to push it back further. Maybe All In made the most sense. However, with the way, they could still get there, but now we have Anarchy, which we will get to. But then you also have,
but All Out is still a thing. So
right, that's true. Yeah, and All Out needs a big
draw because
right.
That's a lot of pay-per-views in a row in a time that's going to be pretty tricky. It's
right. So that's a fair point that they could wait till All Out. And then Speedball challenged Okada last night. Yeah. And Okada, it was hard to kind of understand. It sounded like he said, I accept it, but it was kind of hard to hear. But then Dralisico attacked Speedball from behind, and then Roosh got involved. And he gestured at Okada, and Okada's and he kind of made his little pouty face and left. So it's not been made official. I'm sure we'll find out by Dynamite or Collision, which is on a Thursday this week. So Thunder Thursday Collision is a thing again this week because
thanks for the reminder.
And so perhaps
I have to find out from you because Tony Khan never tells me.
So apparently, maybe they are doing Okada Speedball. Or Okada Speedball Roosh, except for Speedball keeps getting put in 3-way matches at pay-per-views. So we'll see how that plays out. And let's see here. LeBron says that if Mina loses, hopefully they have something else lined up for her and she doesn't fade into obscurity like the women who challenge for the title usually do after losing. If they're pushing her the way that they are rumored to be pushing her, I hope that is not it. Yes, Crash says the same thing, that Mariah is trying to leverage a new contract, going heavy, leading to WWE. But who knows? I can see her in WWE, but I wouldn't be the move if I was her. Depends on her priorities with dollar signs. That's what I've been saying all along. I think Mariah is leveraging because she is a smart wrestler, and any smart wrestler should be doing this. Again, I bring up Randy Orton all the time because Randy Orton had no intention of ever leaving WWE, but he's still leveraged because that's what a smart man does, or a smart wrestler does. And so I think Mariah is doing the exact same thing. I think she is leveraging. If she has signed her contract, then I think that she could come at Double or Nothing. However, they could leave her off TV till All In. There's always that. And so Laurent says there's a theory online linking Tekla to Mercedes. Maria says if Mercedes doesn't win at Double or Nothing for the match with Athena, for the TBS title, shouldn't Athena be on AEW television? Athena's never mentioned. I think they're purposely doing that because they don't want you, because I think Athena is going to cost her Double or Nothing, and they don't want Athena. They want it to be they want you to have forgotten about it, so they're not putting her on TV, is my guess. I mean, they're not good at putting her on TV as it is, but I think this time there's a reason for it. I think that's my theory anyway. I could be way off base. That's my theory, is that they don't want people, they want people to be like, oh, of course Athena cost her because Mercedes cost her the title. Like I could see that. I think they want. I guess maybe not a shock, but like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Duh.
Right. That guy. I think that's what they're doing here.
That's smart.
Wait,
I mean, that would be good booking.
I was gonna say if I were booking, same thing. So let's see here. Daza says, would it be better to have at least one of the Brits chasing the title into Forbidden Door? Depends on what Forbidden Door is trying to accomplish. Because if we're doing AEW versus New Japan, I guess the women would be kind of different. I mean, I guess it also, they might be setting up a strong title match for Forbidden Door. Perhaps Azumi is going to defend the strong title at Forbidden Door against someone else. Perhaps it's Mina, or, because Mina was, she pinned Mina to become the champion. So I could see that. My guess is they're both going into Forbidden Door as champion is my guess. But I could be wrong. Laurent says, didn't they run Swerve versus Ospreay at Forbidden Door? Yes, they did, but was he not? No, he was. Will was already he was already signed, right? Yeah, he was already an AEW talent when they did that. So, yeah. Right? Yeah. No, wait a minute. They did. Wait, was that at Forbidden Door? Or was that all in? No, all in was Swerve versus Danielson, right? Yes, that was Swerve versus Danielson, and then they did, right? Am I remembering?
I can't. Okay.
Am I remembering correctly?
I'm no good at that one.
Somebody will tell me in the chat. Somebody said,
sorry, I flipped.
It says, Vlad is the first time viewer here. All y'all do is complain. Is one of those channels? Do y'all talk about stuff you like? I'm out and dislike. No, we talk about stuff we like all the time. But if this is not for you, thanks for checking us out and pushing the algorithm up. And hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for popping in.
Yes, that is true. This is supposed to be Forbidden Door.
Right.
CML is supposed to be involved this time too. Could be a lot of other promotions. So kind of so basically a Wrestle Dynasty format, I guess, depending on how they book it. But yeah, so I would prefer them to do AEW versus New Japan versus CML, like getting those type of matches because we don't typically get them. I mean, I know obviously we get them more than we did, but I'm not really a fan of them doing AEW versus AEW talent on Forbidden Door. That's not what Forbidden Door is supposed to be for. Do that on your own pay-per-view.
You've got enough.
That's how I feel about it. Yes. Ron is correct that Athena is hinting at an AEW return on her social, so I can see her showing up Double or Nothing. She definitely she has been hinting at that a lot about how she's getting impatient, which I think is feeding into
that builds the story for all ends, so that's good.
Yeah. Dawson says, speaking of Tekla coming in, I've noticed a tendency from some podcasters to be quite sniffy about Joshi wrestlers coming in, branding them as no one knows them. Well, that's because
that's on them. That's a them problem, Gaza.
Yeah. And I don't know a lot about Tekla. I've only seen like a brief amount because as much as I love women's wrestling, I just don't have the time. And so I appreciate the people in the chat who are familiar and can help me out with stuff. But from what I've seen of Tekla, she's awesome. Like I'm excited to see her in AEW. I want to see, that type of hard hitting style. And I like her character work from just a little bit that I've seen. I think she could do a lot of fun stuff for this. I mean,
division. I guess we've reached at least an equal level where they're equally bitching and complaining about people they don't know who are men or women. So hey, I mean, we've hit a milestone. They're complaining equally about women they don't know that they do that men they don't know. So
there we go.
I mean, in reality,
I guess
in reality, they can be as sniffy as they want, but the idea is that they totally called themselves out on the fact that they weren't paying attention in the first place. So oh my God, there's wrestling I don't watch.
Laurent made sure we knew. He confirmed Will and Swerve main evented Forbidden Door last year. I think Will was the international champion at the time. Yes, I believe you're right. Thank you. My timelines were I was like, wait a minute, because it was all in that little time, and then we got All Out for the Sickos, where they choked out Bryan Danielson with a plastic bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Maybe it was because we wanted to forget about that part. So.
Maria asks if we've heard a timeline of return for Orange Cassidy. I have not.
No, either.
They're not really talking about it, but it was interesting because in the promo they aired of Jon Moxley last night, he was talking about how Anarchy would be better than anything that they have currently done, and they flashed up a picture of Orange Cassidy and they flashed up a picture of Darby Allin, which I think was just showing, because that's the title. He wanted them to step up to him and they couldn't get the job done, which I think was the point of that. But it was interesting that they showed Orange Cassidy. But my guess is because it's a torn pec, it's going to be a while, would be my guess. But I have not heard a timetable at all. Hopefully before the end of this year, but I don't know that it would be that. Daza says, I just think, do the masses of fans know all the luchas when they first come in? No, they absolutely do not.
No.
The only reason some of them knew who Penta and Phoenix were is because they were on TV.
Yeah, I've been at plenty of indie shows where someone's shown up that I didn't know, and I just snap a picture of them and send it to Sam or John, and I'm like, do you guys know who this is? And either they do most of the time or they don't, and we all figure it out later. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay if new
and sometimes there's a video package, or Excalibur will tell you
if you listen.
Lauren says, why is TK not using the Joshis currently he currently has on the rosters? Where are Riho, Yuka, Shida, and Emmy? I know that Emmy has been in Japan doing a lot of stuff with Chaco Pro. She also was doing stuff in India with a wrestling promotion there. I think they're trying to get some wrestling promotions off the ground in India. I know there was a promotion that ran a few weeks ago. Actually, I guess it's been a couple months ago now. Bad Dude Tito went over to India to wrestle for this company, and I believe Jinder Mahal, I don't know, Nikki may remember too, who there were a few other well-known wrestlers that were involved in that. And so I don't know if the one that Emmy was working with was that same promotion or if it's a separate promotion. So I know she's been doing that. And then Yuka had been cleared and they used her, and Sumi Sakai finally watched AEW for the first time. And they haven't used her since. And then I know Shida's been doing like a ton of stuff. Vinkin says she's in Japan wrestling for Oz Academy, and she's been doing movie stuff. She's been doing a ton of movie stuff. Right on. And Vinkin says, something tells me it's Visas. Yeah, I feel like that might be the case. Perhaps, Lauren, that will be my question on the media call for Tony on Thursday. There you go. Because there's a media call Thursday afternoon. Oh, yeah, so perhaps, depending on what comes up in the next few days, perhaps
pre-show.
Because that's a question I think about often, is like, where are these people and like where is Nyla and these things. So perhaps that will be my question. Nikki says she can't remember either, but she does remember stuff with Tito and Emmy. I think Emmy was doing something separate, but I have seen her talking about that lately. Vinkin told me to write it down. I will put it in my notes app. I usually try to have 3 or 4 questions prepared in case somebody else asks mine or something similar, because that happens to me often. I will try to save the ROH questions for later, but sometimes like nobody else is going to ask because they don't watch.
Sam's one of 12. So yeah.
Again. Crash, I'll come back to you in just 1 second. Jermaine says, will AEW add a women's match and create more titles to go up against Evolution 2 at All In? Evolution 2 still has not been announced. I still think that is just rumor. Would I be surprised if WWE counterbooked their big show of the year? Absolutely not, because they're already running Saturday night's main event on Saturday, where they are doing a cage match the night before Anarchy in the arena.
Weird.
And had Damian Priest say the word anarchy and the word vortex in his promo where he challenged Drew McIntyre.
Good Lord.
They're not a threat, though.
Oh, no, not at all.
At all. But I would like to see them, if an Evolution 2. First of all, I would love an Evolution 2 to happen.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Long overdue. However, I think it's not in good faith. I think it's to, just like the first one,
over here.
It's to shut people up. And also, they were running in Saudi at the first time, and women were not wrestling on the Saudi shows at the time. And they were trying to attract Ronda Rousey and be like, hey, we give a shit about women. Come over here and come wrestle for us. That's all Evolution was. Granted, I still appreciated the event and the women who were involved. I hope there's a second one. And if there is, I hope that pressures Tony to use the women more often, because as we talk about, competition, it is good for everybody. And so if that's how we get, if Evolution 2 is what makes Tony book more women more often, then I will take it. We'll see if an Evolution 2 actually does happen, because they should have announced it by now if it were going to happen. It's May 18th. Yeah, they should have announced it by now. If it's happening that weekend, perhaps it happens later. I don't know if it actually will. We shall see. Crash says, speaking of Forbidden Door, before we move on, what's your ladies' take on Gabe Kidd Crash and the AEW Dynamite? Yes, we were going to get to that. I guess we have, yes. So actually, before we get to Anarchy in the Arena, let me get to LaRon. He wanted us to talk about it. There was a spot last night on Collision where Harley Cameron got in the ring with Anna Jay before the match started. And Anna was posing or whatever, getting ready, and Harley appeared to either kiss or bite Anna Jay's ass. And that has caused, I thought, and I was like, oh, typical Harley, moved on because I was covering it. Apparently this was a big conversation on the intranets last night. And so LaRon asked if he couldn't wait to hear our takes on it. And before I give my take, do you have a take on it, or do you even remember the spot? Because it was very quick. It happened like before the bell even rang. It was just a super quick thing that happened. But the internet is all talking about it, including Medusa.
Oh, shut. Okay. First of all,
she quote tweeted all caps and said why. And people were like, because AEW objectifies women. And then people were like, okay, but let's talk about the things you used to do because of Vince McMahon.
Excuse me, Medusa, who had an interview with Dave Meltzer and Garrett Gonzalez and sat there and shamed speaking out victims because she never had a problem in the locker room.
Right.
That's her words. She said that because of the fact that she never had a problem, it invalidated the entire freaky movement, essentially. And no offense, friends, but, and I know they're boys, I get it, but neither Garrett or Dave, and that was after she started the show off by hitting on Dave, which if a girl had done, or a boy had done the same thing to a woman host, it would have been a freaking nightmare. That's the one and only interview that Garrett has done with Dave that I have ever shut off, because those were her words, and I was like, and now I am done with you.
I remember you telling me about that.
That ridiculous, and that's on any media. I've done that with the news. I've done that with everything. So I can't take anything that comes out of that woman's mouth seriously, including on the documentaries because I've been catching up on Dark Side.
Yeah.
And I will get hot about her every time.
Yeah, she's on the other
if you didn't have a problem, then you had a responsibility to the other women in the locker room to be not allowing that to happen, not shaming them because they didn't have the same experience as you. That's BS. That shows me what kind of person you are. The end. And neither one of them questioned it because it was so cute that she hit on Dave at the beginning of the thingy. And that would have been huge controversy if those genders had been swapped.
Oh,
it would have
100%.
Been a goddamn nuclear bomb to the international wrestling community.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's where I'm at on that, is that if that's what you're saying,
take on this comment.
I'm sorry, I can't take anything that comes out of that woman's mouth seriously because of that exact moment. Because
and she has talked about some of the things that happened with her, and what happened. I believe it was her and Kevin Nash, if I'm not mistaken. Some things that she said happened to her.
Pardon me, ma'am, but you do not get any moral high ground on any plane of existence anywhere in my universe.
Right.
Okay. That's not happening.
The thing with the spot.
So to me, my real quick to answer that.
Go ahead.
Just sorry, I didn't mean to go off.
No. It's fair.
She deserves it.
This is what prompted it, as LaRon says.
But my answer really is: so Harley does a quick spot because she's Harley. That's hilarious. I think it's freaking funny. I didn't know until you just said that there was actually I didn't even know there was controversy when Laurent
the
Cole tweeted
wrestling
that.
internet, of course, everything is controversy.
I know, I should have known. when he, you know, which I love that you guys are talking to us. I love that. It's really fun to pop on my Twitter and have you guys engaging us. I think that's fun. I still think it's weird that people even want my take on a situation, but this particular situation is somebody who is 100% carny. I dress up like a Viking so I can drink out of horns and watch one of my best friends is a bridge troll. He's the nicest troll ever.
Yes.
Like,
he gave me a very nice cameo.
I mean, let's be real. Like, this is like, so for me, I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. There's nothing weird about that because that's Harley in a nutshell.
Right. And that's, I think, so that was kind of my take on it, as well as it's Harley. This is what I expect from her because she is just outlandish and just does whatever. And the last couple of weeks, like in the promo she cut was, you know, we went to Coachella together. Her great ass is in my hands. Literally what she said. So she was just furthering that.
They cannot understand women having this. If we were in Europe or almost any other nation on the planet, women platonically touch each other all the time. They hold hands. They kiss when they meet. Women in every other freaking place. It's not a thing. Let it go.
Right. I guess I guess if it were in a queer baiting type of sense, of course, then that would be
that's
an issue. I don't think that was the case here. Yes, both women are, as far as we know, are openly straight people. Anna Jay is in a relationship. Not that you can't be, obviously you can be queer and be in a relationship with a man. We see that with Toni Storm. But as far as we know, neither woman identifies as being in the LGBTQ community. Perhaps they are, and they just haven't announced it. So, of course, if people see that as queer baiting, I am not going to, that's not for me to say.
You're reading pretty deep
I don't think that's where they were going with this. However, I will say that women have evolved to the point in wrestling, in most companies, where they have autonomy and can do what they wish. We've talked about that before with the whole Tony and Mariah thing where they were kissing a lot and people were all up in arms about it because they're like, Tony is making them do this. Tony is not making them do this. That's the difference. Vince McMahon was doing these things because he was manipulative, abusive, and exploitive. And we have seen a lot of
his fantasies in real time, which is what it was.
Exactly. And we have now seen that a lot of that was stuff that he was doing behind the scenes where he was making these women like, if you want a new contract, you got to do this. If you want to do this, if you want to raise, if you want to be on TV more, this is what you got to do.
Exploitation.
In this situation, that is not what is happening. Yeah. These are women who have the autonomy to do things that they want to do. Tony Khan is not forcing them to do these things. Pat Buck, Sanjay Dutt, any other man in charge of creative is not directing these women to do these things. And that is the difference. These women are doing this voluntarily on their own to either, sure, maybe it is to get attention and excite the fans, but also Harley's whole thing is, I'm protecting Anna's ass. That's her thing for whatever reason.
This would be like
Harley. So
to me as a lady, this is like if you and me, like as friends, were like doing that kind of crap. Like it would just be, it's silly. We're bros, we're sisses, we're whatever. We get each other. We know where we know each. We have one another's consent outside of what your purview is, and you normies. We have one another's consent with each other to play around this way. And if you're sexualizing that or you're making that into something, that's a you problem.
Right. And Maria says it too. If what Harley is doing is out of her own free will and it's not men booking it for her, then it's okay. People need to relax. Maria, I'm right there with you. As long as they're doing it of their own free will and of their own autonomy, then I do not see a problem with it, because for too long, women have had to play this part in wrestling and in other situations where they are doing things for ratings or to get men's attention because sex sells, and they are being forced by people who give them money or who are in a position of power, forcing them to do those things. And so if women have evolved to the point where they can make those decisions on their own to do those things, then that is completely different. And
a really good place when you consider where we are, actually.
Yes.
All things being equal, that's not the worst position we could be in right now.
Jermaine says, did anyone tell Medusa that WWE and NXT recently had a similar spot with Gigi and Tatum before they got broken up? Not that I saw, but I only saw a little bit, so hopefully somebody did. Yeah, because I saw
she probably didn't have a problem with it. So
I saw a lot of replies. Well, and they get mad at Booker T for the things he says. Yes, because Booker T is out of line. What things he says.
If you're being racist or an asshole or a misogynist, then you get called out for that behavior, you're getting called out for bad behavior.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
You want
we will everybody
wants, though. It's like clear. They don't want freedom of speech, they want freedom from consequences. It's like, no, you can say whatever the F you want to, but people are going to scrutinize it, especially if you're putting it on a public platform.
Right. And then also,
LeRon.
Hold on, LeRon, I see you in just 1 second. Now I lost where was I going to go with that? Yes, I want to be clear. I mean, as if it's not clear enough. If it were to come out that, yes, Tony Khan is the one telling them to do these things, then I'd have a real problem, and I'd have no problem saying it. Not just because I prefer AEW does not mean, clearly we criticize. We lost a first-time viewer because we criticized. And if it turns out that Tony or any other man in a form of power was telling them what to do, then yes, I would call it out. Thank you, LeRon. I appreciate that. And thank you for the question, because it turned into a really good conversation.
Yeah,
and I appreciate
thank you very much.
And
gracious of you. Thank you.
Yes, that is gracious. And then also there was a comment I was going to go back to from Crash that made me laugh, because yes, it's true. That Crash said, the internet obviously missed Taguchi full moon moment at night 5 of BOSJ, would have lost their tiny minds. I have made it through night 4. However, I have seen the clips from that match and how they shot it that Taguchi's
that one I did see.
Exposed. But if you've watched just New Japan in general, you've probably seen Taguchi's ass at some point or another.
Oh God, yes. If you've watched for any extended period of time, you've definitely seen it.
So yes,
no, it's totally fine when Taguchi does it, though. It's fine
because he's the man. Yeah. He's exactly, Crash says exactly, Mel. This is just a bunch of has-beens trying to crowbar their way back into a conversation and or relevancy, non-stories. They'll be writing a book about themselves. Right. So yes,
I wanted to because I remember getting out of my local library or off of my onlines, because I got enough to read that's good.
But yes, so
sheesh.
I think that's what we've got of that.
Oh, the internet. Can't we? This is why we can't have nice things. That's what I'm saying.
No, apparently not. Exactly. The most famous booty in the world. We love Taguchi. We do love Taguchi.
I got it. You know what's so funny about Coach is that every time Tony does that hip attack, I think of him every time, and I love it. And at first, I used to think, I remember, because it's one of those things where you convert yourself as a New Japan fan, where at first his gimmick is like really annoying, but then after a little while, you're like, I love Ryusuke Taguchi so much.
I do too. Oh, Crash has said, Sam, you're in for a treat. Taguchi-san tries to pin Yo of all people with his funky dragon, literally. I cannot wait. We got through night 4 last night, which was really good, but I'm really looking forward to night 5 because I cannot wait for Kevin Knight versus Nick Wayne. I'm really, really looking forward to that one. And then there's two or three other really good matches that I'm looking forward to. Like, I've really enjoyed this tournament thus far. And I think my match so far, I know I'm only 4 nights in, my match so far is Nick Wayne versus Despy. That match.
I have not seen this one yet. I have seen I know that it does. I know. I've seen everyone's feedback. I'm almost there. That's literally the night I'm starting now. That's where I am. I spent
that has been my
spent
match.
a whole afternoon watching like the first 2 or 3 nights because I really just was like, I love Best of Super Juniors. It's my favorite thing. Some of my favorite matches of all time are always on there. I'm like, I've got to sit down. I was so happy to watch them. It's if you've seen, you see it. If you've been around New Japan, it's like you see Taguchi's ass as much as you see Walton Goggins' junk in the Gemstones, man.
Yes.
It's
facts.
and it's in some weird universe it all fits together and is okay, and everything is right with the world because of it. And I had a great time. That one's like, it's coming. That's the night I'm on. I can't wait. It's living up
there was the night 3 has been good, and the night 4, the last 3 matches had just like crazy finishes. I mean, obviously the false finishes are New Japan is always doing them. The final 3 matches last night all had crazy finishes, and like the last few, the tournament has been really great so far. Crash said that
he's got like 3 of my matches of the year already. It's really silly. He is wrestling on another level right now.
Who did you say?
Despy.
Yeah.
El Desperado. He is killing it right now. He's the best.
Yeah. Crash.
How do you like Ninja Mac?
Ninja Mac? God, I'm loving the Ninja Mac stuff, which I knew I would, and it is very DDT-esque, but I love it. He's so good at it.
Possible way.
And I love that they are playing. I love that the way that the others are playing along with it. And so night 4 was Ninja Mac versus Kushida.
Ooh, yay.
Which was fun.
So
Crash says night 5 had some great comedy relief throughout, which was well placed. Their timing of the booking for this busy BOSJ schedule. And it's been really good. Or has been agreed. He said, wait till you see Ninja Mac versus Master Wato. That's the first match. Was a bit of a bit with the mask that chefs kiss. Definitely getting to night 5 tonight. Nikki said sometimes it's hard keeping up with tournaments, but it's been so good that as soon as we can, Nikki's like, let's watch Boss J. Yeah, because I was like, well, we can get to night, because night 6 happened this morning, so I was like, if we can get to night 5 tonight, then hopefully after I have to watch Raw tomorrow, we'll try to get into at least some of it, because we're at the point in the tournament where it's all 10 matches, or all shows are tournament matches rather. And so it's been really good.
It's such a great tournament. Such a great warm-up.
Waiting for the 5-star in August.
This great warm-up for G1 season, man.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Plus we get Dominion.
Yes.
It's going to be a busy summer.
I thought they had Kevin Knight was on commentary for night 1. And
really good.
He was we talked about the Kanemaru, about how he's talking about Kanemaru being born in the 1900s. So good. And then ELP is always great on commentary. I really enjoy listening to ELP on commentary. And then last night, Chris was solo, had to carry it himself, but he did a good job as always. And so I was thinking about this. Will Charlton be on Forbidden Door commentary this year, or because of the dumb non-story? Speaking of a non-story, that whole shit with Chris Charlton.
That was so dumb.
So I was like, are they going to let him be on Forbidden Door this year?
I hope they do, because that would just shut everything down on that front, and it would just be
and I hope as much I love Tony Schiavone, but he was out of line for what he said, and I hope he apologizes if he has not already apologized to Chris Charlton. I hope he apologizes to him, because he was completely out of line, and I do love him. But you know, people you love can make mistakes, because we do that too. But I hope
humans. We are all humans here.
Oh. Well, that's disappointing. Is it because of that situation that he's not dumb as hell? Chris Charlton does not deserve that.
Yeah, that sucks, because he's really been a pretty key part to the whole thing. And I mean, I guess they put probably Walker and what? Okay, well,
that's so dumb. So
get you. You know what? The only thing about it is, and I think it probably boils down to, because the Japanese people, like the way that they do business, you really just don't insult your.
No, but he was.
I know it seems. Maybe this was a cultural.
What Gabe Kidd said.
Maybe this was a cultural thing.
As Gabe Kidd said, and then repeated literally what Gabe Kidd said.
I mean, maybe it's cultural. maybe it's a little cold. I mean,
Well,
maybe.
Tony Khan is wrong.
Oh, okay. So this is okay. So
Tony
this
Khan
is like
is
him
wrong.
being mad at Jack Perry for getting CM Punk fired, then, huh?
If that's even true, because I don't.
I listen. I fantasy book that in my head because I think it's hilarious to myself. Okay, I'm making jokes to myself and a friend of mine that we make that joke to all the time because that's our joke about it. But
yeah. That's what I had heard too. That Bushiroad is the one who nailed Charlton
I just
Charlton
think it
over
has
it.
to do with the now. Okay, if Tony is pushing that, then you're already gonna get. So the Japanese don't like that, and then if Tony doesn't feel good about it, then it's gonna double the.
Well, they're wrong. They're wrong.
I agree with you.
If somebody from AEW is listening to this, you are wrong. Chris Charlton, he did nothing wrong. All he did was repeat literally what Gabe Kidd said. And then Tony Schiavone was out of line with what he said to him on the internet. He clearly did not listen to the clip. He just read what other people were saying about it, which is unfortunate. And again, I love Tony Schiavone, but he was wrong and he was out of line. And Chris Charlton deserves to be on commentary for Forbidden Door, and you need to get over it because you were wrong and you need to say you were wrong.
That whole thing's if nothing else, let's like close the book on this ridiculousness, put Chris Charlton back on the thing. Tony Khan can get over his butt hurtery and we can move on with our lives.
And so are they bringing in us? And then I also wonder, are they bringing it because CMLL will be involved? I would assume that they'd have one of their commentators involved. Right? Maybe? Yes.
Yes, I remember. I love Gordon Soley, the Suplee. Yes, of course. I read actually one of my first.
Tony and Rocky should keep their damn mouths shut.
It's what I think that's. Yeah,
it's done. Like, why are we making us a thing? Because you know what's going to happen. Obviously, we're talking about it, but it's going to come up again when Forbidden Door comes on and they realize Chris Charlton isn't there. It's going to bring all this shit back up on the intranet. I mean, I know we're feeding into it because we're talking, but I was wondering because I was listening to Chris and I was like, wait a minute, are they going to not let him?
That's where the wrestling business. Like all carny shit, and that's really spidey and grudgy because
it's nothing against Walker because Walker Stewart is great.
I love Walker's honestly,
and Walker should absolutely be a part of this, but
yes.
So should Chris Charlton. And Chris Charlton is just as much as, especially for those of us who watch New Japan on a regular basis, we know what was happening. We know that he was not insulting them. He was literally talking about Gabe Kidd, and Tony and Rocky are wrong.
Well, it just, to me, I guess, just from my personal subjective experience was just this is a show that's them versus us, and so the guy was playing into that heel role, and maybe the counter, the whole thing. I'm sorry, this is one of those times where if I were resolving this as a child care provider, I would be like, you were wrong and you were wrong, and you both need to say you're sorry, and you need to not, and you need to get over it, and we're gonna all play together and it's fine. And
I do get that it's a cultural thing,
but if
I do get it's a cultural thing as well. But also
it could be cultural. But if Rocky and Tony are pushing it, knowing it's cultural, that means that they're leaning into it, and they don't necessarily
get your shit together. And so if there is a Wrestle Dynasty next year, that Chris can be a part of it, and you can grow the hell up and get over it.
I guess I get it, business is business, and people are going to be placated, and that's the way. But that seems like a pretty petty thing for two adult men to be butthurt about, such that they want to keep someone off a show.
Said,
but
what Gabe said, whatever. Okay, we're spinning all. Okay,
yeah,
because we're going to talk about Gabe. I know I've been quick to push this off. We will get to it. Maria says people are quick to jump the gun and call someone out when it's just an innocent misunderstanding. Yes. USVA guy says this thing is not a New Japan show. It's an AEW show. New Japan is just a participant. We don't really have any say in anything other than how our talent are used, which is fair. And I thank you for providing that perspective again for us, because you are correct and we appreciate that. It's super helpful for us.
And that makes good business sense, of course. If it's not your show, then you're going to operate under the rules.
I mean, it is titled AEW X New Japan, but we know how that has played out, which I don't want to get USVA started.
That makes total sense. Honestly, he's not. No, but that's right. I mean, that's business though, is that if you're the friend, if you're the visitor here, then you listen to the home team. That's how you work.
Hassan says he wouldn't trust Chris with a live mic if he was AEW. I don't think there's anything to worry about with Chris. I mean, Chris obviously will say what he wants to say, but
I mean, I guess you would think he might have learned his lesson, but here we are. Who knows? So TBC, because we have no idea.
Yeah, crush us maybe with Gabe. The thing is that it's all rather convoluted work from Chris. I doubt it, but you couldn't have an imitates life booking if they wanted. Oh, that would be interesting. All right,
it would not even be like the first 100 times that's been
no, it would not.
True
not at all. Wrestling. I mean, let's look at BTE.
One of my favorite little comments from a book I read on wrestling was where it was like Meltzer was talking about he was the only, or it was Irv Menchenick or Meltzer, but one of them said he's the only person to have booked his own divorce about. And I was like, wrestling is scarily like it does that. The whole like, and you watch those Dark Side episodes, and you're like, dude.
And we often talk about on this show that wrestling is often a reflection of real life. We say that all the time on this show. So yes, Saturday. Dynamite ended with Crush said booking her own divorce, so that's talent.
I can't remember which exact event it was, but yes, it was an I just remember that exact. I was like, that's yikes. There's some wild stories.
Yeah. VA guy says Chris is not willing to jeopardize his real job with the company for commentary because yes, he first and foremost he works in the New Japan office, and he can be trusted with a mic. I would trust Chris Charlton with a mic. I mean, I know he says what he says, and that's part of the reason people like Chris is because Chris just says whatever he wants to, for the most part.
And I would say he seems like, I don't know the guy. He seems like someone who would. He saw that was like not something he should have done. Maybe he even did it in the heat of a moment. You don't know. We're all human. We err. Mm-hmm. But in the grander scheme of things, like that's like the best kid in your class forgets his homework one time, and you never let him be you never do praise him ever again. Yeah. You just like that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like but I get it. I get the business side of it.
Right. Sure.
So it's I get it.
So as Dynamite went off the air, obviously it was a cage match, and then shenanigans happened because of course they did. And Young Bucks are involved because of course they are. And then a wild Gabe kid appears in a hoodie. And at first I thought it was going to be Jack for a second. Then I was like, that's too big to be Jack. Mm-hmm. Not him. And then he slides the briefcase to Jon Moxley, ensuring that Jon Moxley still has his, as I think it's Lady B calls it, his Price is Right briefcase. Or not Price is Right. The Deal or No Deal. I'm sorry. Wrong game show. Deal or No Deal briefcase.
There we go. I like it.
He still has it. He's still the champion. Clearly we knew that was going to happen as far as that goes. Swerve gets involved. And Swerve is like Anarchy in the Arena. So Swerve is the one who puts out the challenge for Anarchy in the Arena. I called this way back.
You called this so long ago. I literally was sitting there. I'm like, Sam, God.
So when I had to go find my tweet to prove it, because you have to have receipts on the internet, even if they're your own. So I went back and also I couldn't remember if I said Anarchy in the Arena or Stadium Stampede. I was like, I think I said Anarchy in the Arena. I did. And I said that's why the Bucks were back and that's why they were involved in the story, is because it was going to set up Anarchy in the Arena. I thought perhaps, because I was talking about the Bucks getting involved, and I was like, I thought it would have been Jack Perry. Still have no Jack Perry. He could still come, depending on how this plays out. Again, if you have not been with us long, I had thought months ago that Jack Perry would eventually join the Death Riders, especially because when Death Riders took over, the Young Bucks peaced out. They went home to work from home, left him by himself. Daniel Garcia was tying him to the front of his own bus.
That's right.
Drove off with him on the front of his bus. He lost his title. He talks to them about that at Battle in the Valley, and they're just like, yeah, sorry about that. Like, we had to work from home. Sorry you got tied to a bus, but hey, you're still alive. So there's that, yay.
I mean, you're not dead. So hey, cool.
So, right. So, and then he went and wrestled at, he was at, not Wrestle Dynasty. He was on the Wrestle Kingdom card, right? I believe, yes. He had the Wrestle Kingdom match. He had his own, he made his own scepter. He had that whole thing. We haven't seen him since. This could be where he comes in some form or fashion. So it appears to be, from the way Swerve said it appears that Willow and Marina will be an Anarchy in the Arena. Jon Moxley kind of seemed to, when he cut that promo last night, Marina, of course, was with him. So was Gabe Kidd. So it appears that finally women will be involved in the first ever Anarchy in the Arena match. Assuming this match main event, because the very first Anarchy in the Arena, I had to go look it up because I couldn't remember. The very first Anarchy in the Arena did not main event, but it is main evented the last two. With the way this card looks, most likely Anarchy main event.
Well, he's the champion, so it would make a lot of sense in this particular, especially in this case, because usually the championship would go on last.
So if that is the case, then the women will be main eventing their first pay-per-view on a technicality.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I am conflicted about that.
Okay.
Because yes, I'm very excited. Women they're finally in Anarchy in the Arena. I would like them to have their own, or maybe their own blood, at least their very own blood and guts. Like, I would like there's to be a women's version of that. I would like them to do a women's $400,000 match that they keep putting men in. I'd like the women to have a shot at $400,000.
Like where is that one.
Like, I like those. So I am very excited, especially because of the story they've been telling I hope that Willow and Marina are actually involved in this and get to do some wrestling, get to do some cool shit. Like, they're not just there and doing like the bare minimum. Like, I hope that they get their moment. But I'm also really mad that I'm not really mad.
Maybe this is the way to wean people in.
I don't like that this is how the women get their first match. In year 6, they still, again, Athena has main evented in ROH 3 times. ROH has had women main event, not Anarchy in the Arena. I mean, not on AEW's main roster. So I'm a little torn about it. Like, so I'm very happy for them. I'm hype as hell that they get to be in this match, but I'm also pissed that if this is the main event, this is how the women get to be in the first main event ever. And Tony better, by the end of this year, 2 women better be main event. And I'm still mad at him that the Hollywood ending was not that one. I'm so annoyed with that. So I am, yes. Fernando says that Anarchy in the Arena is going to be lit, especially with the ladies involved, because they really do add to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so clearly with Gabe Kidd being in this match, a lot of New Japan fans are very unhappy about it because, and I get it. At least some of the arguments, some of it, I don't agree with, but I get it. But because Gabe Kidd's whole thing, like the match with Kenny Omega, was, I love New Japan. I am not going anywhere. I don't want to be with any other company. I represent New Japan. Mm-hmm. I bleed cerulean blue. Like, this is for me. And now you have him working with the Young Bucks and Jon Moxley in Anarchy in the Arena, seemingly divorced from what he stands for in New Japan. Yes, he has, obviously, Kenny Omega will be on the other side of the Anarchy in the Arena, so that's kind of how we get to that. Originally, because first of all, I was annoyed when I saw Gabe Kidd, because we talked about the Gabe Kidd Mariah May stuff. If Mariah May renews, comes back, how are y'all going to handle having Gabe Kidd around with the whole Mariah May situation? Again, we don't know. Maybe in real life they have dealt with it and put their past aside. Maybe he doesn't feel the way that he used to feel about her. But I don't, so it makes me a little nervous having him around with that situation. Again, I don't know. Maybe they're cool. Maybe they worked that out. Maybe they're professionals and they'll deal with it. But it felt like that. Gabe did not feel like he should be in this story. And my guess is they're going to set up something for Forbidden Door, and they're starting it now. They're planting the seeds now with the Anarchy in the arena match, and then that's going to lead to something at Forbidden Door. What are your thoughts on Anarchy in the arena and then Gabe Kidd's involvement?
The one thing that I did strike me because of like the Bucks being involved, and there's a like old Bullet Club meets new Bullet Club sort of thread here that is potentially exploitable in this particular case, because of, especially considering the War Dogs version of Bullet Club is trying to kill the old era. So there may be can they coexist, component here.
If Gabe Kidd working from the inside to kill
the original. I mean, think about it. Those guys are some of the original, they're only like second or third generation Bullet Club. So I mean, you could exploit that factor for the fans that are a fan.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good point.
When I saw him come in, I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, right," because the War Dogs are killing everything, and I was like, "Wait a minute, no, maybe not that," because Kenny Omega and Gabe did have their thing, and that's a great way to have another match, perhaps. I mean, a match so good it made Tanahashi cry, like.
Right.
I mean,
so that's why people that's their thing. Like, this match was so important to New Japan and the New Japan fans and how they reacted to him. Are they taking that into consideration? Like, is AEW taking any of that into consideration? Like, any of the way he's booked in New Japan into consideration when they're booking this? Are they just booking him because they can? They're like, so I see the argument. If you have not had a chance on this channel, Jeremy Finestone clipped his conversation and his thoughts about Gabe Kidd, because he made the point like that. How are they going to get there? Like, you can tell this story of Gabe Kidd, and the stuff with Kenny, and also being true to what he says about New Japan. And so I thought maybe, because they've done this in the past where the Young Bucks have paid people to do their dirty work. They've paid them to be involved in things. That was my guess of kind of where this was. In the promo that aired last night, Jon Moxley said Gabe Kidd works for me. Yeah. So did he and the Bucks like team up and be like, hey, we need someone else on our side that can like really hurt them? Why don't you offer Gabe Kidd some money to come help us out? That's my guess of what's happening. Clearly, we'll probably get some more answers this week, hopefully. But is it going to be in a way that is satisfactory to New Japan fans, where it doesn't feel like, hey, they're just trying to poach our talent again? Because that's a lot of the reaction I saw was, Gabe Kidd is a liar. He never cared about New Japan. He just wants money. He's going to go to AEW as soon as he gets the chance, is what some people think.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know that I do either, but I'm not saying the way it has played out thus far. I mean, we do need to let it play out and find out exactly how this is. But then, and I kind of thought about this, and Jeremy mentions it as well, that this could be where Eddie Kingston comes back. Eddie goes after Gabe because Gabe is the one who injured him, has put him out of action for months, and took his title. So maybe this is setting up Gabe versus Eddie at Forbidden Door.
I like that.
Which could be, but then he was like, which is fine, but he was like, how do you get from he's working with Jon Moxley and the Bucks to getting him to Eddie Kingston, if that's where they're going? Like, how do you get this from there, and how do you do it in a way that's not like, oh, we forgot about that story? Like, are you paying attention to the New Japan product, and will this benefit New Japan side of things as well, other than just giving Gabe Kidd exposure on AEW television? So that's been a lot of the conversation that I have seen, and I am sure. Let me look at some of the comments, because I'm sure you guys have some thoughts, but definitely go check out what Jeremy has to say, because he has some really good points to make there. Crush and Fernando believe that Gabe Kidd is awesome. He will be great for this. Perhaps he will have. Fernando says, why New Japan will be upset if it gives him exposure is a win for both promotions. USVA guy feels that Phil feels that the exposure for Gabe will be minuscule. Crush says that it's because it undermines Gabe's whole philosophy up until now, which is how he's booked himself in New Japan. Gabe said he's New Japan through and through. Now it looks like a different story to some. Venkin says Jeremy is 100% right. The presentation is wild. They could run Kenny Gabe back from earlier this year. Yeah, they could do
that's
Kenny.
That's what I thought. That was my my knee jerk is, they're going to do another one because, I mean, you could run it back.
Right.
Easy.
Yes, and then so Crash says it looks like the U.S. and New Japan shows like Resurgence booking need to be appreciated as being in a total vacuum. The specific angle with the Bucks and the Good Brothers and the War Dogs now makes a mockery of anyone following the main line, which, yes, Jeremy also points that out as well. So I still have yet to watch Resurgence because it is available on New Japan, but I mean on World, but I've been catching up with
USJ has been more important.
Like, not that I don't want to see Resurgence because I do.
No, but it's just prioritizing
but
time.
Boss J is my priority.
And we only have so much time in one day.
The Young Bucks and the Good Brothers did team up against the War Dogs. I guess Good Brothers are, with the baby faces here. But so Gabe Kidd was just wrestling against the Young Bucks the Friday before, then that Wednesday he's with them. So that's why some fans are like, okay, well, you're not paying attention to what is happening in New Japan if you book them together, which is why my theory is the Young Bucks after the match were like, hey, we have a proposition for you. Can you come help us out with our problem? We'll give you some money. We'll help you out down the line when you need it. That's where I assume this is going. Whether that's a satisfactory answer or not is,
what if this is a way for them? I mean,
but
we could
my
be looking.
Guess is, go ahead.
What if this is a way to get the Bucks back in Japan and not the other way around?
The Bucks were just in Japan and they made it basically made it sound like they're going, because they were there for Wrestle Kingdom and they were saying this was probably going to be one of their last times because there's a lot on their bodies. The Good Brothers are involved. I guess Good Brothers could potentially be going, they I guess are back in New Japan once that's done. And I don't see either one of them being in G1, and maybe they'll be there for World Tag League or whatever. But Dominion
I don't need Good Brothers on my AEW though.
No, and I don't really want them in my New Japan either, as we said last week. I don't want to push him off on you guys, but I watch New Japan. But we watch New Japan too. Yeah. I don't want to. In 2025, I have passed I would rather have three-belt Dustin Rhodes and have the Good Brothers.
I'd rather have Talkin' Shop Mania 3.
That's not really. That's
go work on that. Carl, you got a great house, you got a great property, you set that up. It's like, it's not COVID anymore. You can go hog wild now.
Yeah, right. Please give us Talkin' Shop Mania 3. That's what the fans
really what you should be focusing on. Like, think about how great you can make it with the whole world is open now.
Right. You can book whatever you want.
It would be the penultimate Talkin' Shop Mania.
Please. Just do that. Give us that.
I
would rather have that.
Ozzy's on tour. Talkin' Shop Mania, it's great. That's a perfect.
Exactly.
This timeline needs a little bit of that.
Yeah. Oh wait, hang on. Vidkin says that the Bucks won the titles and then dropped them later. Yeah, so I don't think they're going to come back either. And then Crash said there's definitely room for that regarding propositioning. Gabe Resurgence main event with Bucks was more a standalone spectacle, and they were all teased the unified War Dogs moment. So I hope that they are respectful of what New Japan's doing. I know the way that it does not currently look that way. I'm sure we'll get an answer. USVA guy said, here's the problem. Tony's going to overboard if he has to do this with Kingston. The storyline with Kidd versus Kingston occurred in a New Japan ring, showing storyline. Yes, the injury affected AEW, but I have said for months that Eddie Kingston could be the one to end the Death Riders, because Jon Moxley has made multiple references to Eddie Kingston this entire time, and that has been the only theory that does not line up with Eddie Kingston being the one to dethrone Jon Moxley is he is not one of the young guys, which is the whole thing is, I need a young guy to step up and defeat me. So Eddie Kingston, that's the only qualification that he does not meet in the story. But he has said, so he has been calling himself, he has called himself the king a few times. Clearly, Eddie Kingston is the Mad King. Also, you can argue Suzuki, but he's the Mad King. He has said in the up close interview with Renee, he said, Claudio is my number one. He is my number one lieutenant. He's my number one guy. I would die for him. Eddie Kingston is supposed to be John Moxley's best friend.
And he hates Claudio, right?
And he hates Claudio with a passion. That is his arch nemesis. Right. Your best friend is now saying that guy's his number one. Your arch nemesis is his number one, and he would die for him.
Yikes.
He has all this fuel for Eddie to come for him. And so I have thought that if Eddie were healthy, he would come back for All In. Could possibly be now. And so, but I get what you're saying. As far as the Gabe Kidd
trying to go to, yeah.
Right. So I get that. But Finkin says this is actually a long-term storytelling. So I think, I do feel like Eddie Kingston could come back here. I think also the Jack Perry could come back here. Jack Perry could possibly come and be Team AEW. He's a pillar of AEW. He has been, the Young Bucks abandoned him. Kenny Omega, I guess, kind of abandoned him too, but Kenny Omega has not been he's not an EVP on TV anymore. He's just
because they fired him. So
right. So just like they fired Hangman Page.
Right.
Who apparently
so they do. I mean, they have like a mutual enemy of my enemy thing going on potentially, and they've already wrestled together. So
right. So yes, it sounds a little convoluted, and I'm sure we'll find out more on Wednesday. But and so I don't want to discount what New Japan fans are saying. I think some of them have are really, really upset, and I guess I get it because there's things in wrestling that make me really upset, so I get it. And but I also think that I'm hoping, and maybe this is just giving Tony too much of the benefit of the doubt, and I get it, and especially for USVA guy, I get it. I get especially the way Forbidden Door has been booked before, and it's not true to the original concept, which was supposed to be AEW versus New Japan, which I guess you could be if you are doing Gabe Kidd versus Eddie Kingston. But he did make a very good point. That happened in a New Japan ring. And it, of course, took him off of AEW television. Is that enough for them to do that there? Could they do Gabe Kidd versus Kenny too? Do they just put Gabe in a completely different match? Maybe it depends on how Anarchy plays out. I'm really excited for this match. I don't know why Gabe is here, but I do. I mean, other than now we know John Moxley said he works for him. I assume that the Young Bucks just talked to him after the match and was like, hey, want some money? Want to beat up Kenny Omega in a cage, but it's gonna Anarchy is everywhere. So I think that's it. We'll see. And so maybe maybe New Japan fans are right to be really upset with this. Maybe this is not going to be what it should for Gabe, and maybe they do have a reason to be mad at Gabe Kidd. I guess we will find out, maybe after Double or Nothing, or maybe leading into Forbidden Door. I assume that we're going to be seeing Gabe Kidd on AEW television leading up to Forbidden Door now. Does that mean he's part of All In? I don't necessarily think so, but I guess it depends on what they, are they going to do the Bucks versus, Swerve and Kenny? Maybe they're doing, maybe they're not, maybe you're right. Maybe they aren't doing Kenny Okada 5 at All In, and perhaps they do Kenny and Swerve against the Bucks or Gabe Kidd or something. I guess we will find out more after Sunday.
Yeah. This is gonna be huge. I mean, this is a huge pay-per-view. There's a lot of things that they need to push. They're set up, but they need they're teed up, but you need to strike the ball.
Right.
What else?
Yeah, right. Crush says trust fans assume that they're following along, but explain it in commentary and video packages, and then feeds the fans to check out each other's products. That's hopefully the goal, but we know that that's not necessarily the case. Because I see plenty of New Japan fans who refuse to watch AEW because they don't like it, which totally fine.
Well,
but
that's something I think that
it's,
what USBA guy was kind of getting at is that like the number of New Japan fans watching AEW versus the number of AEW fans watching New Japan is significantly different. Like we are watching New Japan way more than they're watching our product because they're more interested in their own product. They don't need to watch ours. Whereas
and then that's how some AEW fans are. They're more interested in AEW than they are New Japan.
Right.
And then there's CMLL, who is just in ROH doing cool shit. And I don't know that AEW fans are watching CMLL. I don't know that New Japan fans are watching CMLL either, for that matter.
Well, there's a ton of content, so how do you get to it all?
CMLL fans might not be watching, maybe they're watching Teton and Boss J, and maybe they do have ROH subscriptions and they watch the CMLL guys killing it over in ROH. But there's that too. So I hope it works out for everybody. I hope I don't like when I because I enjoy both companies, and so for me, I feel differently about things. But I get the people who only watch New Japan being upset about how AEW does things. I understand the AEW fans not really getting what New Japan is doing, not caring, which is unfortunate because that's the whole point of Forbidden Door is to make them care. And then, but it has not been booked in a way for some people to make them care. Regardless, I think Anarchy in the Arena is going to be fun.
Me too.
And I'm looking forward to it. And then, so we do, speaking of Double or Nothing, which is a week from today, and we will be doing our pre-show next week where we go through the card and we predict what's going to happen. You guys are definitely, we love having you guys giving your predictions as well. We do have more matches we've got 4 new matches that have been confirmed, potentially a 5th one, which we talked about. Speedball challenged Okada. Doesn't seem like it was quite official because he got attacked by LFI. So that is a question mark. Obviously, with Anarchy in the Arena is on this card. Mina Shirakawa will be, because she won the title eliminator match, she will be facing Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship. And then the match did not air, at least for TNT viewers, aired for Triller viewers. Sons of Texas did defeat Crew, and so the ROH Tag Team Champions will be facing the AEW Tag Team Champions for the title. And then we did get confirmation right after the women's match. They cut to commentary, and Nigel was just like, never saw myself in the ring again, but if I don't address FTR now, they're just going to keep doing this stuff. So I have to wrestle them and try to put a stop to it. I'm teaming up with Daniel Garcia. We're going to face FTR at Double or Nothing. And then I saw a promo aired of Daniel Garcia talking this was on social media, and he was like, I never thought I'd be in a ring tagging with Nigel McGuinness against the greatest tag team in the world. He'd put it in quotations, and Daddy Magic was like, I don't know why you're putting it in quotations. And he was like, but Daddy Magic was like, well, we know Stoke is going to be out there. And he's like, if you think I'm leaving Stoke unchecked, think again. I will be out there. If Stoke gets involved, I will punch him in the face, basically, is what he got at. So Stoke will be out. Daddy Magic will be out there to kind of run interference on Stoke. And so that match has been added. And then, so I think I don't even know. So we've got those 4 matches plus the 2 Owen Hart matches. That's Owen Cup matches. So that's 6 matches. I don't know if I guess if they add Okada Speedball, that's 7, but because Anarchy in the Arena may be like a longer match, I don't know if they just leave it at those 7 matches.
No way.
Because they've done that, but they did do that before it was because I don't think it was Stadium Stampede. There was some match that it was the Iron Man match that was an hour long. So they only booked like 7 matches because the Iron Man.
Because he usually comes in between 12 and 15.
Right. But Anarchy in the Arena could be a long match.
You're right. So he could come in at like 8 or 9 even.
Right. And then, of course, and then sometimes because this will not be 0 hour because it's for Double or Nothing. So it'll be the buy-in this time. So sometimes the pre-shows only have 3 matches. Sometimes they have 4. So they could do, hopefully we get another women's match there. Unless they bring back the Casino Battle Royale, which they typically do for Double or Nothing. And then the winner gets a shot at the TNT title.
I was just going to say TNT TBS maybe.
Yeah. So Adam Cole does not currently have, he did last night in the segment it was the Paragon with GYV. GYV is wrestling Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy next week. I assume that means next week as in Collision. Adam does not have anybody challenging him for the TBS title. TNT championship. So maybe he does an open challenge, or maybe they do a Casino Battle Royale and then he wrestles them later in the show, maybe, or something. Because he doesn't have a match. And they typically defend all the titles. So there's clearly not going to be a trios title match.
Will and Hangman is on this card, right?
Yeah, Double or Nothing. They're the Owen match.
Okay.
And
so that's one.
And the women. So yeah, that's also. So we've got 4 for sure the 4 that were just added. Then the 2 Owen matches, that's 6. If they add Okada Speedball, that's 7.
7.
So, and then I guess if they add a TNT title match, that would be 8. They won't do it. I doubt they'll do a trios match. I mean, I guess they could because it is the ops.
Right.
So they could do, I guess they could.
Maybe that's on the buy-in.
Right. Unless they do, maybe that's what they'll do. Because I'm trying to think.
That seems like a buy-in. That almost sounds like a buy-in match to me.
I was trying to think of any other. I think that would be no, because then you would need the international championship, right?
No, because it's
Okada's Continental.
Kenny has it.
Kenny hasn't. Kenny's an Anarchy, so no, there will not be that will not be.
No. So it'd either be TNT, TBS, or
TBS is being TBS is not being defended because Mercedes is in the. Wait a minute. So I think I asked this before. If I might be confusing myself. So Mercedes versus Athena, not Athena. Mercedes versus Jamie is the cup match. Clearly the title is not on the line. So then the title's not on. So then I just answered my own question. Mercedes would not, if she lost, she would not drop the title because the title's not on the line. No. But I was asking how that would affect her undefeated streak. But if she loses by DQ because Athena costs her, then I think that means her record is still intact because it would be a loss via DQ, not because of a pin or a submission. So I believe that is correct.
Interesting.
Yes. Bailey and Okada is being teased. Bailey did challenge Okada last night. Okada responded, but it was kind of hard to understand him. And then Dralisico attacked him immediately after. And then Roosh pointed at Okada and kind of made it like he wants to wrestle him. So seems like something is happening with that. Crash says that it's risky, but he's excited about the cross-promotion enterprising. Only time will tell if it is effective, and there's no bad blood is sown, especially by the competition, the WWE. Yes, agreed. Maria asks about the SmackDown debut of one JC, Jeff Cobb.
So I didn't actually see it, but I got to tell you, if Brad is out there, if he's listening on the replay or if he's listening right now, you popped me hard on that because Jeff Cobb's new, I can't even, whatever it was,
Mateo.
Brad's tweet about it, I don't know if you saw it, but he said this week on Saved by the Bell, and he made an hilarious joke about the kid from Hawaii beating down Zach, and I just go look for that.
I missed it, so I will have to see that.
I retweeted it. I thought, or I at least answered it because I thought it was. He really made me laugh out loud. I don't know what to say about that.
I think that it's good
for
that
him.
They're putting him in a big story
Good.
with the bloodline. Clearly, as I said last week, WWE doesn't give a fuck about Hikuleo.
Who's that?
The man has not been used at all since they signed him. They don't bench anybody, but he's not been used. And then during the opening segment, let me back that up. Last weekend, I saw that they trademarked JC Mateo, and I was like, man, is that for Jeff Cobb? And then I had heard, because I didn't watch Backlash, that they had referred to him as Jeff Cobb on commentary. Some people say they didn't refer to him as all. My editor said yes, they did call him Jeff Cobb. So Friday night during the opening segment with Solo and Jacob Fatu, they just referred to him as JC over and over, which clearly JC is his initials. So perhaps that's what they were doing. Well, then WWE posted on that clip on YouTube and called him JC Mateo. So then later on, when Solo Sikoa was wrestling in a qualifying match for Money in the Bank, Fatu and Jeff were out there. They were calling him JC Mateo then. So it's like they finally got the green light to call him that. I don't know.
The lawyers call in about 3/4 of the way. It's like a 5-hour SmackDown. They're like, okay, you're clear. Go with it.
Yes. And so then we get, so if you missed his actual WWE debut, last week at Backlash, he interferes with the U.S. title match because that's what Jacob Fatu has. He attacked LA Knight so that Jacob Fatu could retain his title. It was a 4-way match. Jacob and Jeff have history from the Indies. Apparently there was a big thing with them a few years ago. So they're friends from back in the day. That's why he was there, even though Jacob Fatu looked confused, like, what are you doing here? So during the opening segment Friday night rather, LA Knight attacks Jeff then. And then he attacked him again when he was out there for the match. So Nick Aldis was like, let's do an impromptu match right now. So that's how JC got his first match in WWE. It was fine. It went a little longer than it should have. I would have
Was it on the main thing or was it on
It was on the main. It was on SmackDown. It was like
okay.
it was in like the 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was 10 o'clock because I was like, how much of the time are they going to cut off the women's main event because they're doing Jeff Cobb's match right now? It should have. I would have liked to see Jeff Cobb get a squash. Like that's one of the places that a squash would have worked. However, when Knight is a former U.S. champion. He's held it like 14 times. Actually, it's probably like 3, but he's held it way too many times. So I get it. He's a former champion. They had a really long match, longer than it should have been. Jeff won with Tour of the Islands, which got a big pop out of the crowd, who was in Greensboro, North Carolina, by the way. But yeah, so I mean, at least he's in a bloodline storyline. Hopefully they'll do right by him. At least so Miro has come back and wrestled one time. He wrestled Otis and squashed him. And then he's cut a couple vignettes. So at least they're not, overdoing it. But then
did he come back as Rusev?
Yes, he's Rusev. He did come back
on
as
Rusev Day?
He is not talking about Rusev Day anymore.
No. He can't
he's talking about the Abyss, and people are like, Abyss as in the guy who works in the back now. So and then Aleister Black's first match back was against The Miz. And then he wrestled. The Miz is, because apparently Triple H hates Carmelo Hayes for some reason, maybe because Black, but he hates Carmelo, doesn't book him well, and has now paired him with The Miz because he hates him. And so now, after Malachi squashed Miz, he wrestled Carmelo. And so that's what Aleister's doing. So of those 3, I think Jeff Cobb is in a better spot than those 2, at least for now. We shall see how it plays out.
At least he's new. You know what I mean?
Nikki says
the universe.
Nikki said that I misread Mateo last night on something, and I read it as Metro, and I was like, maybe we can just call him JC Metro, which I told Nikki is short for JC Metrosexual.
That is a better name, Nikki. You're right, but it does.
So
I'm not like, and I think you're being very creative. It's not that hard to be better than WWE at naming things, but
yes. And then I was assigned to cover Jeff's debut match, and I said, do I have to call him by his WWE name? And they were like, he said, my editor was like, yes, you have to. And he was like, do it. I mean, he was joking about it, but the girl who was on live coverage, she's like, listen, if I have to call him in my coverage, if I have to call him JC Mateo, then so do you.
Yep.
So,
we have to suffer this together.
One of the other writers was like, I'm not familiar with him in New Japan. She was like, but then constantly calling him JC is getting on my nerves. And I was like, yes, it was a little annoying.
Wow.
But then Jim Valley made the point that he thinks they're just going to start calling him Mateo because they tend to drop parts of the names. And I was like, please, since they actively were calling him JC in the opening, I hope it's the Mateo part. Like with Big E, he was Big E Langston. They cut it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we all know what they did to Chad Gable.
Oy. Let's not go down that
And
road.
what they did to Piper Niven.
Yikes.
Calling her Dewdrop. Nikki said they did not have a good track record for names. Nikki says that, yes, Rusev has not brought up God or his neckmate of Stan yet.
Well,
however, some people kind of thought that he was throwing shade at AEW, but I don't actually think he was. I think he was actually just kind of being like, I reinvented myself and then I got lost in the abyss. But he keeps talking about the abyss, but the way he worded it, I don't necessarily think was a shot at AEW. I mean, it could have been because
it could have been, but I think people are always going to read that into every single thing both sides.
Right, and the way he's kind
anything.
of continued with the abyss storyline, like he's brought it up in the new promo. I think that's a direction he's whatever. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I have enjoyed the promos.
That's good.
But yeah. So
whatever keeps you awake during coverage, right?
Right. Yes. Vinkin says maybe watching wrestling for 10 years that I've seen like that finish in an infinite amount of time. Seen this finish in it. What finish? I know this was sort of a few minutes ago, so I'm not. Oh, Vinkin. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my fault. Vinkin said it's usual. The usual face focuses on the heels on the outside and runs the finisher for the 1, 2, 3. Yes. And so that was the reference. Sorry, I read those out of order. My bad. Yeah, you could be Andrade or Dragon Lee, who don't really do much of anything. They come off of Palcatraz like for a match or two, and then they go right back to Palcatraz. Fernando said, is it just me or did Jeff Cobb look like he was rusty? What is that what WWE does to people? I think he's just got to learn their style.
Yeah.
I thought he
looked different.
Maybe it could be his partner. I don't know. I don't know that he's ever faced Knight before, so maybe it's just because it's a new opponent, or I don't know. I thought he looked okay. The Tour of the Islands looked awesome, the way it always does. Bronson Reed, I have not heard when he is coming back, but he has been hinting at it a lot lately, and he is very excited for Jeff Cobb to be there. So I would not be surprised if he is coming back fairly soon. Crash said, I hope they don't just keep the JC part that was taken like 2,000 years ago. Listen, I will not lie. When they were doing the JC, it made me think when that I don't know.
WWE has no shame.
I don't know that anybody will get this reference but Nikki. But in the 90s, there was a Christian singer, and he had a song called, and it was like the thing was like a call and response, and it was like, who's in the house? JC. And that's what I kept thinking. Like, I haven't thought about that song in ages. I did think about it. It was by an artist named Carmen who died a few years ago. And so something made me think of it like recently, but like I had like my brain had locked that away. But for some reason, every time they said it Friday, that's what I heard. And I was like, where did this come from? I mean, I know where, but like, I was like, why did this suddenly? But then it also made me think of JC Chasez, who to me is the best member of NSYNC. I was a huge fan of his going back to the Mickey Mouse Club when I was 8 years. I've had a crush on him since I was 8 years old because I saw him. I watched him on the Mickey Mouse Club, and then he joined NSYNC, and JC is
people do not understand that like Britney
Spears better member,
and all those people were on the Mickey Mouse Club.
So he is a far better singer than Justin Timberlake will ever be.
That was when they had shortened it to MMC.
Yes,
I remember.
They did.
Like Britney Spears was on there. So many people.
So many. Fergie was on it. Oh no, Fergie was on Kids Incorporated.
Oh, that's I remember I was a big Kids Incorporated fan. That was
I watched Kids Incorporated as well. I love that
Kids
show.
Incorporated. I wanted one of those lacy skirts that they wore.
Yeah.
But I lived at the end of the supply chain, so no one understood what I was asking for. So they bought me like the world's dumbest looking tutu thing.
Oh no.
Ever. It was horrible. It was like parents trying to do something that they have no concept of fail. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why don't you ever wear that skirt? I'm like, because that is not remotely what those things look like. Okay. I had to wait till I was an adult in a thrift store to buy one. I'm so glad someone else watched that with me.
Yes,
so great.
I love Kids
my best friend and
I watched Kids Incorporated and MMC. I'm right there with you.
We were
meant to be. Yeah. Then
another meant to be moment brought to you by Sam and Mel.
Yes, because we are from the 1900s, as Kevin Knight would like to
say. We are truly 1900s girls.
Yes. Apparently there was a name discussion about the walking weapon, because Crush says the walking weapon triggers him because of Steve Blackman, head cheese FTW. Actually, head cheese would be better. Nikki said, I was like, oh my God, I know what she's about to say before she even got started. Oh, about the Who's in the House, JC.
Head cheese sounds really, really weird when you cut it on a slicer, deli slicer, just for those of you who didn't need to know that. But
thank you for that fact. I appreciate
things that you didn't need to know.
Hey, they say you learn something every day.
Literally, when you cut it on the deli slicer, it makes this like squeaking noise. It's the weirdest thing. And it smells terrible. That's what I remember from working in a deli for 6 weeks. And I worked at Pike Place Market, my first job in Seattle that I picked up before I got my theater job that I loved. I was working in the market at one of the big delis there, and we were right around the corner from the fish throwers because I got to know the fish throwers. They were fun.
Yeah,
they're hilarious. And we had. So that was like I never wanted to do it because I was like, no, it smells terrible and it makes the worst sound in the universe. It's like this weird squeaking. So I'm like, no other deli meat does that. Deli meat is not supposed to make noise when you slice it, okay? That right there should just be like, get it out of there.
That's your sign. All
right.
Something's wrong.
You know, the pimento loaf doesn't make noise. It's gross. Just saying. Anyway, this is my last little randoid vent for the day.
Listen, it happens at least once a show. Where we go off on. Listen, we usually some days we have wrestling. That's too bad Vlad got mad at us because sometimes we have weather corner. Or power weather or weather bombshells. I think is what somebody has called it.
I like that. I like weather bombshells the best.
Sometimes we have gardening corner. Sometimes we have pet minute. Sometimes we have random 80s, 90s nostalgia. Yeah. A lot of that here.
It's true.
So Maria bringing us back on topic here.
Thank you,
because she is a good viewer. Not that if you encourage us, not that you're a bad viewer. But Maria says, do you think the women's Owen Cup was much better than the men's? What do you think?
That's fair. You know what? There is a good argument to be made because the women's division is a little better than the men's division right now, in my opinion. You could argue that. I like the cup matches. I love the cup. I'm glad they're continuing it. I think they should keep it up. I think it's been good. But there is there's a good argument there. I think the outcome, like, let's see the final matches and then decide. Like,
I think at Maria, I think I might have to agree with you because like there have been some really good stuff with the men have had some good matches. With the women, I think have shown how strong that division is, and they deserve to be main eventing, dynamites and rampages, and also pay-per-views. And so I feel like that they have shown, again, cautiously optimistic, but I feel like this is probably the best the women's division has ever been in AEW. I think that they have incredible talent, and that's even before you have, Tekla coming in. Hopefully you have Mariah May returning. Even if you don't, it's still a really yes, I do think should she leave, yes, it would, it would not harm the division, but I think it would miss her. However, I do think that they do have a really strong division. And you've got Willow and you've got Chris, and Marina can actually wrestle. Like Mel and I have talked about this. Like if you watch like wrestle when she was doing stuff in Wrestling Revolver last year, I was like, why the hell is this Marina not been in ROH and AEW? John Moxley is involved in Wrestling Revolver because he's friends with Sami Callihan. He's wrestled there a few times. He's backstage sometimes at shows. I think that's where all that started with him and Marina. So, they have there's tons, and of course there's unfortunately there's women who are not being used on TV because there's obviously limited amount of time, and they could be doing a better job with that. But I think I would say, to go back to Maria's question, I would say that, I think you might be right there. The women there's not there's been a bad match on the men's side, but there's not been a bad match on the women's tournament.
Well, the women's side has better, there's more story. And it's more satisfying story. The Death Riders thing has frustrated people at times. It hasn't been always. I mean, I'm one of those people. It's me. I'm people. But I think that not until somebody presented it to me, I wouldn't have necessarily thought about it. But I think overall, because the women's division is just better and more satisfying, that yes, I think that there's been a better and more satisfying tournament for the women. Because the women's division is better than the men's division right now.
And I think the women's division
is being booked better.
The storylines in the women's division are better than the storylines in the men's division.
Yeah. Agree.
I think, and I am not the judge. I've seen quite a few other people who seem to think that as well. Crash TV says that he thinks that it's safe to say the women's Owen has been better storyline wise for sure. Vinkin has a theory about the Mercedes Athena stuff. He says the theory of Athena screwing Mercedes. He said you could pull the Athena distracts the ref, Tekla knocks out Mercedes, and Jamie gets the win. Because I can't see a double title match at all in. At least I hope so. Yeah, it's really interesting where they could put Tekla. I do think Tekla definitely shows up at Double or Nothing. Did Athena, is it like Mel was talking about earlier, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? And Tekla, maybe she's like, you know what? I know that you cost me this title. We'll worry about that later on. But I need your help right now to beat Mercedes. I need to get her back for what she did to me. And then I'll deal with you later type of thing. So there is perhaps, that situation. And then also, where does Billy Starks play into anything with Athena? Because Billy has not been used as well. She's not been on TV. I know she was finishing up school, so that might be part of it. But also, she's not been in ROH either as of late. So does Billy factor into any of this as well? Which would be interesting to see. And as we've talked about, a few times, is when Athena goes to when she goes to AEW, is she bringing Billy with her? Is that the route that they're going, or does Athena drop and it depends on what they're doing with the ROH tag title, because yes, Super Card of Honor is the night before All In. So do they have Athena retain that title, then go defend the title the next night at All In? Is that what we're doing here? So how long is she going to take that? Because then the next ROH pay-per-view is Death Before Dishonor in September. That's when they're doing the show at the 2300 Arena, or where they're doing that residency. So it's a lot depends on what happens at Double or Nothing, and maybe we'll get more of a clearer picture about where things are going with that. And then, Maria, I will answer that question in just a minute. I think there was something I wanted to... Yes, the women's matches do get a bigger pop than most men's matches. And then Crash TV was just ribbing on Josh Alexander. I'm sure he's fine with it. He earns way more money than me. That's, of course, a phenomenal wrestler he is. Let's see. Hopefully AEW signs SC Jade and have her confront Tony Storm. Who? I'm not sure who. I don't know if I know who that is, or my brain is not connecting. Oh, are we talking? Oh, Cora Jade. Signs Cora Jade. Oh, I see what you're saying. Cora Jade. I don't know. I think Cora Jade is going to spend a lot of time on the indies. She's already booked for several MLW shows. I feel like she kind of probably needs to rebuild her identity. And I feel like some people, just because I don't keep up with NXT as much, but I feel like some people think that she has regressed kind of in the same way that Shotzi regressed when she signed, that Cora has kind of regressed as well. And maybe being on the indies for a little bit would help her out. Maria says, can you see Dakota making a surprise debut at All In? Maybe. I think of all the women released, I mean, there's Shayna too. Garrett and Paul, there's a video on this channel as well of them talking about which three they want to see, like which three wrestlers that were released would they want to see in AEW, and Paul and Garrett both want to see Shayna. Garrett wants to see Shayna because he thinks that'll bring in Ronda Rousey, which I have very strong feelings about, which is, I hate it. I don't want that to happen. Shayna, I wouldn't, I don't necessarily, Shayna's not my favorite, but I think she's a solid talent. I enjoy her blood sport. But I have no interest in Ronda Rousey being an AEW. I have no interest in the MMA 4 horsewomen being a thing.
Yeah, no thanks. I mean, that's not
oh,
me.
That's right. Go ahead. I mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's just not me. You go.
No, I forgot. Thank you, Jermaine. Billy has been wrestling in CMLL the last few weeks. That totally slipped my brain. I forgot that she had been, and she'd been having some solid matches. And I think Athena was fussing at her because she lost a match, and Athena was yelling at her. To be honest, at this point, we better wait for Athena to drop the ROH belt till she has 1,000 days. Yeah, at this point, she's at like 870. And also, I think the 90 days for Dakota, because Dakota's on a 90-day, not a 30-day. So no, at All In, because I was thinking Double or Nothing. Sorry, All In. Would their 90 days be up by then?
That's August, right?
Because they were cut early May.
Yeah, first or second week.
Because All In is July 12th. So I think the 90 days would be after that, correct? Or were they cut? They weren't cut in April, right? Where is it, April?
I can't remember.
My dates are already running together.
It's been a couple weeks now.
Yes.
It wasn't last Sunday. I think it was the Sunday before that we talked about it.
See, and that's a question. I mean, and I could be way off, Maria. In 2025, is Ronda somebody that would bring eyeballs to AEW? Is she somebody that's still relevant enough that they would, because of what she, not necessarily, I mean, sure, I guess the WWE fans might be, who are familiar with her, might be like, hey, what's she doing in AEW? Let me check that out. But our MMA fans, like, is that something, and I'm honestly asking, like, is that, I mean, because I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea.
Not really.
Is that, and that was one of the questions. I think that was kind of what Garrett was getting at. Was he thought Ronda would bring eyeballs, but I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea if that's something. I mean, maybe I could be way off. Maybe that is something that people would be, former, MMA fans and maybe even WWE fans who are interested in, aren't anti other companies. They might be like, hey, what's Ronda doing over there? Let's go check it out. So I don't know if what they would think about her being being there. Vinkin thinks the only person AEW should grab is Dakota. I would not mind it if they brought in Carl Fredericks, just because I like him. I think he's great. We like him. We were fans of him in New Japan. Vinkin says that he hasn't counted it out, but the recent releases has counted out Bea Priestley if she could make an All-Star Grand Queendom. Will be open she was the surprise match at a Resurgence last week because her 90 days literally ended at midnight on that morning, and so she was free. Grace says Shayna could go to ROH, but Dakota is a better fit for AEW. Yeah, Shayna might be somebody you could put in the pure division in ROH too. That would be a way to build it around some, have her be a challenger for somebody, for whoever is the first champion. Crash Smith, maybe they could come out in Lucha Mask. That way they can argue that they never breached any not compete clause.
There you go.
Daza
says,
as a Shayna fan, I've been pissed off at people saying she should be signed because she may bring in Ronda. Shayna brings loads of possibilities with matches and stories on her own. I would agree with that. I'm not Shayna's biggest fan, but I really enjoy some of her stuff. And I think maybe the reason I'm not maybe her biggest fan is because of the way WWE books her. But I've seen her in Bloodsport, and I was like, and I really enjoy the stuff that she does. So I think that Shayna on her own, I agree, and not just because of my feelings on Ronda, but Shayna, I think, you don't have to have Shayna to get to, like you said, Shayna can come in on her own. He said that, Daza says that, okay. Oh, wait a minute, that's the same one. Daza said, for once he agreed with Garrett until he gave his reasoning. Jermaine says, I can see Shayna and Dakota Kai help Maria take on Willow, which would force Willow to ask Stat for help. That's interesting. David says Sonya Deville is an unrestricted free agent who could sign with TNA. That's certainly a possibility because they are trying to bolster up their women's division. They've been making some signings lately. Daza said that Shayna is a student of wrestling. She knows so much, and after wrestling, she'd be an asset behind the scenes. Oh, for sure. She definitely would be an asset. And Vinkin says they should be around August the 1st if he's doing the math on when people are available. Yes, and Shayna did have a huge rivalry with Athena in NXT when she was Ember Moon. That is, yes, so they could revisit that too on either roster, depending on where Athena is at. That is definitely something they could do. I had not thought about that, but yes. So there's definitely possibilities. It'll be just depends on, they're bringing in Tekla. Are they re-signing Mariah May? They just re-signed Willow. How are they booking them, and where do you put them? Which I get both arguments. Like, you should use the roster you have, but also, like, you can't say no to Tekla.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say, but also you should book your women better, or book the people you already have, please. Nikki said, I'm not all that interested in recent releases except Cedric going to AEW. However, it would be interesting to see how people wrestle outside of WWE because some people have only seen them in WWE. Right. Yeah. I'm kind of in that same boat, and I can't tell what they're doing. I wonder if Cedric shows up at Double or Nothing and they were just kind of, MJF thinks he's in the Hurt Syndicate, or if he comes at the contract signing, because that's what they're doing this week. And I was like, if Cedric is coming, do they do it there? Or do they do Holiday and Hammerstone coming in with them there? Or as I was talking to a friend about it, he's like, maybe it's all of the above. Maybe MJF brings those two in, so then Hurt Syndicate's like, good, because we got somebody, and then Cedric comes. So, Vickett says he wonders if Tekla starts a feud with Tony Khan. Well, and that's how she got fired from Stardom, right? Wasn't that the story? Was that she got in an argument with I don't
think Tony's interested in getting beat up by a girl. He barely knows how to talk to them. So,
and if anybody could beat him up, it would be Tekla.
Plenty of the women's division. I think he's afraid of most of his women's division at this point.
I mean, you know what? As he should be.
Yeah. True that.
Crashes thinks that MJF is going to screw over the Hurt business at the contract signing. That segment where he said he's bringing his own lawyer. Lawyer kind of reaffirmed that, and then he had Mark Sterling come out, which Mark Sterling used to be. If Mark Sterling wasn't Mark Sterling in what's the indie that they all came with? Creative Pro. Mark Sterling, I think, was in Creative Pro with MJF at the same time. I don't know if they work together because I'm not super familiar with Creative Pro, other than I know a shit ton of wrestlers came from there, including Max Caster and Stat also came from Creative Pro. But I believe Sterling, that's how they had Mark Sterling involved, because back when MJF was doing their presidential storyline that he was doing, and Mark Sterling worked for him on TV.
Of course.
Then they brought back. Then he had Sterling out there the other night, and he did say, well, because he did tell MVP, he's like, well, you don't sign a contract without having your lawyer read it. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So yeah, that's why I'm wondering if that's how he brings in maybe Hammerstone and or Holiday, perhaps. And then maybe that's what they do. Could be interesting. It would be a total scumbag move, which is what he is. Jermaine says AEW can have Athena drop the ROH women's title to Thunder Rosa, then do a tag match with Billy versus Mercedes and a partner at All In. If they are not doing Athena versus Mercedes at All In, I'm going to be just the two of them. I'm going to be pissed because that has been the story you have been planting since day one. I better be getting that match, Tony Khan, or I'm going to have very strong words for you. Gosh, let's hope MGF isn't joining the Premier Athletes. What a hoot.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm familiar with Robert Stone. I saw him a bit in TNA and then obviously in NXT. As they did some stuff with him there. And I think they're doing some stuff with him now, right? I feel like I saw his name recently, but I don't remember exactly what it was. He used to be with Chelsea. And sorry, I have a spam call. he used to do some stuff with Chelsea Green when Chelsea was still in NXT. There was some stuff there. So I'm a little familiar with him. But I think we have gotten to everything. Okay. Make sure that unless there's anything else anybody else
I'm good
to bring in. Because of course we will be back here next week for Anarchy and the Real.
That's part of the Double or Nothing.
The Double or Nothing card, where we will talk about Anarchy in the Arena and who we think is going to win and all that good stuff. And if Edward Kingston is returning, or if Jack Perry is coming, or if some other surprise comes.
Double or Nothing is usually a big show. There's usually a lot of fun stuff that goes on with it. It's usually a pretty big banner show. So I would expect a surprise or two. And usually there are.
And I think, I do definitely expect Tekla. I think that's where she comes.
I think so too. I think that's probably the right idea, the right place, and with all the things that are going on.
Yes. And so make sure you follow us on the social medias. We are still on the Bird app. We're also on the Butterfly app. Fight Game Media is as well. Please make sure if you subscribe to this channel, definitely go check out the other shows on this network. We have so definitely want to probably make sure you watch the Dynamite show this week because that'll be live after Dynamite. That's the Go Home show, so I'm sure they're gonna have lots of thoughts about that. And so that is with Paul and Jeff. Usually 20 or 30 minutes or so after Dynamite ends. There's also, speaking of Strong Style, so if you want, especially with the Anarchy in the Arena stuff coming up and then the Forbidden Door, definitely keep an eye on them. And if you want BOSJ information, they are your guys. Go check them out Thursdays at 5:30. There's the Joshi show with Scott Edwards. There's the Wrap, which is the WWE show. And then I'm sure we'll have more information, but I'm sure after Double or Nothing, they'll be doing they're calling it the Scrum Show. Scrum Show. That's the new after pay-per-view show. We'll find out who is hosting and all that, but there definitely will be one after Double or Nothing. So definitely check that out. And thank you all for coming and being involved. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week.
We definitely will. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.